Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Are you a brewhead? I'm a brewhead. Y'all are brewheads? Yeah, we brewheads. So pour a glass of craft beer, we can do this. Yeah.
What's good, y'all? This is C-Certified Brewhead, and welcome to episode 161 of Beer Nuts, the podcast Adjunct series. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going back to Australia tonight. Being very fortunate to get hold of some beers from this brewery who I think it was 2018 was my first time there. Funnily enough, this brewery was located around the corner from my aunt and uncle's house, which is very convenient. And I got to check it out. And then 2019, went back, got to meet up with the folks behind the brewery, and it was just very impressive. Loved everything they were doing. Super cool people. There's a great tie-in to here in Ontario as well. So if you are out here in Canada, specifically Ontario, then you can actually get a taste of this stuff. So I'm super excited. There's actually another full circle moment in this. So I've been really looking forward to this pod, guys. So please welcome, where am I pressing? Right here. Brendo and Dereck of Bad Shepherd Brewing in the building. Brought the crowd for you boys. Welcome, fellas. Or welcome back, actually, to both of you.
Thank you. Excited to be back.
Yeah,
yes. We miss you.
I know, we miss you guys, man. So to explain what I was talking about, so people, if you're real OG watchers or viewers, you would have seen Brendo back in episode 29 of the original series when he was at the Public Cellars in Croydon, which was my old hood back in the day. So it was very, very cool to, when we were chatting on Facebook, and realize that now you're a Bad Shepherd, which is super dope. And then if folks have been watching the vlogs, Dereck and I met in 2019 when we were vlogging. I can't remember how we got connected. Oh, through Lee.
Yes, it was through Lee.
Yes. Right. But I knew you. I knew the brewery anyway because I went. Yeah, Lee is a mutual friend of ours, and was raving about you to me when he knew I was coming back. So I think that might have been why I checked that place where I went there in the first place. And then, we hung out in 2019 on the vlog. We had a big, long chat, and you had the wicked strawberry milkshake,
yes.
IPA and the Victorian Pale Ale and all this fun stuff. So it's great to see you both. Real fun that we got these connections and to sort of catch up. But the best part, boys, we got Australia here in Canada. I'm really excited to hear this full story because from what I saw on Facebook, it did sound like this was, and I imagine getting an Australian beer in the LCBO here in Ontario is an ordeal and a half. So keen to hear that story. So shall we break one open?
Yeah,
it'd be rude not
100%.
It would be rude not to. You're goddamn right. Look at this, double Choc hazelnut brown ale. Funnily enough, I always feel like brown ales get fronted on a lot. I love brown ales, man. I am such a big fan of brown ales. First question. No, you know what? Before we get to the questions, tell us about this particular beer.
Well, the story behind this particular beer probably starts from its little cousin, or little brother, maybe.
Either
or. Boy or girl.
I always wondered because beer is like feminine in French and Spanish, so I was like, I wonder if it's like. They all girls? Or do you think they're like...
We'll call it a little sister.
Okay, there we go. Just to be safe.
This is the little person we're talking about.
That's little sister.
Right.
So when we started Bad Shepherd, we had a range of 5 beers, of which our Hazelnut Brown was one of them.
Okay.
Still have it today. It's still in our core range. It's a brown ale made with hazelnuts, vanilla, and frangelico.
Okay.
Which
frangelico again?
It's like a
liqueur, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So we launched that as our dark beer at the start, and it sold really well for us, and we carved out a name for it as sort of our lead product that we're most famous for. And then about a year later, we thought we'd amp it up a bit and come up with something new, and we thought we'd double it up. And our sales rep at the time, Scotty Thompson, he came up with the idea, let's do a double Choc version. And we loved it. So we launched it, I think it was 2017, because we launched in late 2015. And then so 2017, I think we came out with this for Easter. And so the idea was to add creme de cacao. And at the time I think we used Dutch processed cocoa the first year. And cacao nibs, I think we tried the first year. Anyway, it's evolved a little bit, changed over time a few times, but that was sort of the idea. Amped up, bigger alcohol version of it with chocolate, basically. So, and then that took off and became our annual chocolate
Easter treat
beer at Easter. Yeah, which we've done now for probably 7 straight years.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so that's the idea. It's I don't know if do we have tasting notes on it?
Yeah, let's do that, boys. First of all, cheers. Great to see you both. Get that in you.
Cheers.
on the nose. Yeah.
Yeah, that's straight chocolate. Crazy smooth body. Some nice. I'm getting a bit of bitterness in there. I always feel like my first sips are a little messed up, but
yeah, you get the because of the cocoa in there. It's like cocoa doesn't give you a lot of chocolate flavor. That's really coming from the malt and the vanilla and the creme cacao that's in there. The cocoa almost contributes bitterness in there. Like it really does, and a little bit of dustiness there. It's more of a mouthfeel than flavour. I tend to find, but it's definitely you get that up on the nose as well. Just amplifies that up. But if you're just looking for chocolate, cocoa is not the place to go.
No. Yeah. Oh man, can you ever smell the brewery though on the days that they dump it into the boil?
And then we're yeasting off or killing cleaning out the tank when it's done. Because so much of it ends up in the bottom of the kettle, and what makes it into the beer, a lot of it ends up in the bottom of the fermenter. It's an expensive ingredient. Yeah. Truth is, a fuck all actually makes it through the finish.
What's in there is good.
It's good.
What's in there is good. Can you use the spent cacao for any other products at all, or is it sort of like
it's all pretty
useless?
Pretty chunked up in the yeast and the trub and stuff.
Gotcha.
Like that.
That makes sense.
It's just not very soluble. Like you think if you make cocoa at home and you finish it, there's always like sludge in the bottom of the cup, and it never fully mixes. It's the same thing with the beer. Yeah,
just times 100,000. Gotcha. That makes sense.
Yeah,
basically.
Expensive cup of cocoa.
Yeah, very expensive. So this is 7.2. This is fantastic. And I really feel like I thought this was an interesting choice. I thought I didn't realize it was the larger version of a flagship, so that actually makes more sense. I was thinking, because now this beer is in the LCBO, I have this beer because it's in the LCBO, which was phenomenal for me, obviously, to support an Aussie brewery here in Canada is everything I want to do. And I thought, well, I know the process, that 3-month, LCBO aging program, as they joke about. Aging, right? Which is insane. But this beer would very much survive that process and be completely unaffected by the shipping and everything. So I thought that probably would have been part of the thinking of it. Because obviously you do an IPA, it's dead, probably on the plane or ship or whatever. But I thought it was a cool choice of a beer, even all of those things aside. That I don't know, as I've kind of gone along this beer journey, obviously when I met you, Brendan, Haze hadn't really popped off yet, and then Dereck, when I met you, I was obsessed with it because it was still not the easiest thing to get anywhere. And I found that sort of and I'd be curious to see if you both are sort of doing this, but you go sort of through the little circle of like a you start off with the color wheel and you go to the Belgians, and then you start to discover all the crazy hype and smoothies and pastries and haze and all of that, and then you kind of come back around to crispies and now like traditional ESBs and something like a brown ale. Like I would drink something like this every beer session now.
Beer Nerd's Jersey.
It's just back to drinking beer that tastes like beer.
It's
just one beer that tastes like beer. That's right. Full circle. We all start drinking lagers and stuff, and then the people of coming back and pick beer nerd is I want a really well crafted pilsner or something like that. It's crazy.
Nothing beats it. You guys, I mean, this is like a how do you guys feel about brown ales typically? And I guess another sort of side note is like how is that like a popular style in Australia, or is this like a bit of like a risk to put something like this out there?
They're a bit of an outlier. Like I think they're one of brown. So reds are my jam, but very, very closely followed by browns, right? And so the thing I always like about them is you got a lot of room to play. You get all that nice big malt base, but then you can go very traditional, like with this more English style and stuff, or you can amp it up and get hot flavour in and stuff. So you can really play and lays lots of different platforms. But I think a lot of people they look at it and what the fuck's that? It's really dark.
Yeah.
It's a bit scary. So, it's if you're not into it, it can be a hard push to pull people through. But once you're in there, I think people seek that out. But that portion of population is quite small. I guess particularly with the rise of things like hazies and just trying to pack more and more hops into things, browns and reds and any beer of colour is less sexy. As a result, I'd say, and I think it's definitely got a place, and those that appreciate it, appreciate a really good one. Like when I go to a brewery, which I'm a boring old man now with young kids, I don't get to do it very often, but when I do, always have a look on the board, and it's generally not the hoppy things I'm going for or whatever. I'm looking for those browns or reds or something that's a little bit different, maybe something a little bit old school, see how they treat it and stuff. But just general punter. Probably less likely to go and seek that out. But sometimes you've got to brew beers for you too, right? Yeah. We want to drink those low fills and enjoy them.
It is definitely a brewer's beer. I'd have to say that. Yeah. It's back to the whole journey and that appreciation.
Yeah.
I think also in the market, in being Canadian, I kind of get a feel for the market here and there and go back a lot. They're very similar. Dark beer has its place, particularly in the winter. It does have a following. It does have a number of people that defer naturally to darker or maltier styles, but they're a smaller proportion of the consumer set. Always will be. That said, Bad Shepherd, we've kind of carved out our place in that area between our hazelnut brown, our double chocolate hazelnut brown, our peanut butter porter, or oatmeal stout. They've all been award winners. They've all done very well with us, with consumers. And so while we're very confident we make fantastic hazies and lagers and sours and stuff, this is probably what we're most known for, is our darker beer. So I often use the analogy of Snapple in the 90s. This would be pre your Canadian time, Craig, but yes. They had this ad. I love this ad. It was the Canadian listeners will know this. We want to be number 3 was the ad. Okay. And everybody got it. Right? Coke, Pepsi, Snapple. So it's like, we want to be number 3 was their chant. And it's the same sort of idea with sales. You can go in and you can go straight at the lager tap or straight at the pale ale tap, and that's going to turn, and it's going to go very well for you if you secure it. But the space and the competitive set is much smaller in the dark beer. And if you make a fantastic one and people connect with it, you can have a wide distribution base with a smaller volume that connects directly with people quite well. And that's a thing that we did well, and we still do.
It's definitely a style that elicits passion from fans. You really like them, you're going to search them out and grab it. And selfishly as a brewer, I love walking into the brewery on a dark beer brew day because the mash tent smells so good. All those roasted malts and crystal malts and stuff going. Yeah. Lager smells like nothing.
Unless it smells like parts.
And then it's a problem. Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. I like that sort of concept of the bringing dark beers back almost, and having that that we are number 3 thing is such a cool concept, because that competing in a smaller pool allows you to stand out more. And even just this is something that maybe you both could speak on too. I feel like almost nowhere does maybe fun in beer better than Australia. I feel like there's so many beers I've seen on I follow obviously everyone on Instagram, Facebook, and I'm looking, I'm like, man, that sounds like beers that are mimicked after stuff I grew up eating, Splice, the ice creams and the frosty fruit joints, and it's Gay Time everything, and Gay Time isn't the greatest ice cream of all time. It's the one thing I got someone to bring me the Gay Time Easter egg last year, so I kept the box over there. So I took like 6 months to eat it because I was just a tiny little bit each day, because I miss it so much. But I feel like just the fact that this is called, say, double chocolate hazelnut, like that is like a little bit more of a, if someone is scared, as you're saying, Brenda, with the darker beers, that maybe a title like this is like, oh, double chocolate hazelnut, sounds like I don't know, some sort of like chocolate bar or something like that. Like, does that help? Do you think that sort of thing helps get people over the hump of objecting to something like a dark beer?
Like, it's a big, new product development in craft beer. The last sort of 10 years has very much been driven around that sort of hook and focus. And whenever we run a program of new beer releases, sort of aim for one a month, generally around there. And you're always looking for what's that hook, what's going to pull it off the shelf, whether that's playing with a novel ingredient or it's a style. Or is it, doing something that tastes like something else? So, you just brought up the splicing. Our beer that's just dropped last week is a mango splice. So, a whole heap of mango in there and vanilla, and it's sour, it's sweet, it's 4%, delicious. So we're always looking, what are those things to help get it off? Because sometimes it's name and style, but, also the creative is really important. What does the can look like and stuff? I think that's something that is... crafties do a really good job of is getting stuff that looks sexy out there on the shelf, pulls the buyer in, and that's a big part of what we're doing there is is it going to sell itself? Because salespeople, they don't want to work too hard, so on the shelf and have it do the heavy lifting for you. But it's a big consideration there, and especially in such a crowded market there as well. Like every brewery is releasing new beers, and then you've got a glut of core beers there as well. It's like, how do you make that stand out? How do you get that to jump off the shelf amongst the noise that everyone else is generating as well? It's definitely a big consideration when designing and putting these beers out into the field, for sure.
And we naturally defer to what do you, like you mentioned, double chocolate has an interest component. So what is it that you can relate to? So while the craft beer experience drinker can relate to, oh, that's a cool new hop, I love it, I want to try that, most people defer to what I already know. So whether that's a soft drink, a cocktail, a dessert, a certain kind of fruit mix, like there's things, or another type of brand that and have experienced. So you have to be careful about passing off on brands, but there's ways to relate to something else, and then people are probably more likely to part with their money to try it because they kind of understand what you're trying to do with the product. So we try to use that as our approach. Is this is an experience that you already know, and this is coming through in our drink. So.
I like that, and that maybe that's part of it, because I did notice over the years of coming back and forth that Australia was a little behind in craft compared to the rest of the world, and I feel like it caught up really quickly. But maybe that's part of what ended up happening culturally there, as far as appealing to things that people already know by bringing back or bringing beers that replicate things that people know, like whatever, all those different things we mentioned, like chocolate bars and all that type of stuff that happened here for sure. But I feel like it happened and maybe it's perception from my side, but it felt like it happened at a higher scale than over here. When I say here, I mean like, you think that's fair?
I do. Yeah, I feel like it's more about. Geez, this is actually kind of sad. I'm just realizing this now, but I think it's probably a little bit more about provenance and the brand story in Ontario. I feel like there's a lot more, and style possibly too. I think of somebody like Flying Monkey. They're incredibly fun, and they do some relation back to other experiences, but they're more about the journey of their brand, right? So where you don't have as much of that here, you do, but I think it's more about what you can relate to. So I would agree. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
I think it cuts across lots of different stuff. Like you're seeing constant crossovers the last few years in groceries and stuff like that, where different brands are linking or pulling flavors.
I noticed that. Yeah.
And stuff. And so I think it's something
everything's merging into one.
Flavor fest, right? But I think it's something we've been doing in beer for a while, but it's certainly popping off culturally in other things as well around that piece, and leveraging and scaffolding it all together. And I don't know, maybe it's just something about the Australian tastes, and like looking for a bit of nostalgia and that sort of, like we can be quite insular at times and that, and so pulling those comfort things forward and stuff.
It's really interesting you mentioned that, because it's something that I don't think I've really spoken to anybody about, but I follow obviously everything. I have something here that it points it out. Like brands things that you know and love are becoming complete, just these overarching brands. Like, I don't even like VB, but I got the fucking Dunlop volleys.
Those are cool kids.
Yeah.
You can give aftershave and it doesn't even smell like VB. So
I've got it. I got that too. Yeah. And I wear it every day. And I got the Vegemite ones of these too. And I got the matching socks for both and it cost me a fucking arm and a leg to get them shipped over too. But like, and I'm noticing like they're selling, I'm looking at the Gay Time Easter egg. That didn't exist growing up. The Gay Time, the cookie crumble on the outside. Like Milo is collaborating with this other brand and like they're mashing things up. And I'm like, what is like, is that just like the big brands who own everything, like flexing and just being like, you didn't know that we all own all the same parent company? Or like, where is this level of to me it's like it's additional branding past the product, and it's all food based stuff for them, basically what you're talking about. I'm like, where did not exist? I left 13 and a half years ago, so it did not exist then, and sometime in the last maybe 5 years it seems like, and it just exploded.
I was just wondering, do you have that big jar here?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so it's similar for us. Like it's a bit dirty, but same sort of idea.
There you go. Yeah, big ass Vegemite. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we had a Vegemite brand hookup last year with Biga. So they gave us the right to their brand, and we rolled out a whole branded barbecue menu and did a few festivals with their product and stuff. We did the Gabs Festival with it and stuff. So I don't even remember how that got going, but yeah, there's a lot of because spreading the brand out to other categories and other ways to I guess we do it more than other parts of the world.
Yeah, it just seems to be a lot of play in that space. Yeah. Because I was quite, like, as much as I love Vegemite as a brand, I was quite happy that we didn't get up and going on a beer.
Oh, we came so close to
like lawlessness, but
we came so close, but we just couldn't convince them to do it.
What would you have done?
It's likely going to be like a brown ale or something like that, and just lots of umami. Kind of going on. Yeah.
It would be a bit weird. I had a jar here and I gave it to a brewery, some friends of ours, and I was like, play with it, see if you can like do anything with it, and never heard back, but wasted Vegemite. But I can imagine it might not be great. But it's just I haven't seen the same thing like Reese's Pieces with like whatever, something else like, I don't know, Score or something. Like I haven't seen those brands here do it, and I've just seen so much of it online, and people know the things I like, so they'll send me pictures of the cool shit, or I'm on the Vegemite mailing list for some reason, so I see all the products, and they're operating almost as like a fashion brand, which is
they are,
you know what I mean? And it's a very interesting, I guess that's a bit of a sidebar, but it's just like a fun cultural Aussie thing that I didn't get to witness sort of in person. But coming back to this, okay, so once again, I have this beer because I went to the LCBO here in Hamilton and picked it up. Like we said, Dereck, where are you from in Ontario again, dude?
I was born in Sault Ste. Marie. And grew up in Northern Ontario, a small town called Manitouwadge, which is halfway between Sault Ste. Marie and Thunder Bay.
Gotcha.
But I lived in St. Catharines for school, and did junior hockey there. And then I moved to Toronto and lived there for about 7 years before I came in.
Gotcha. Okay, I was trying to tell my girlfriend. I was like, I remember. Yes, everywhere. I remember you said Northern Ontario. I was like, you said Northern. I was like, what is Thunder Bay? Because you think Northern Ontario, there's Thunder Bay and then trees.
Yeah, I'm in the trees part.
In the trees. Oh, the old sticks.
Babcock.
Pardon?
Which I don't know if we can say that anymore, given the bullying. Anyway, birthplace with Babcock. Jeff Ward grew up there, so I suppose we breed NHL coaches.
Okay. Look at that. Hockey roads. I'm envious. I know nothing about hockey, but yes, still, I should learn. It's been 13 years. You think I figured it out. So getting this, I'd love to hear the process. Obviously, being you're from this province, you know this is a passion project, and that's what I kind of learned from what Brendo was telling me on Facebook. But do you guys want to walk us through like how this came about, where the idea came from, and then I imagine the arduous process of actually facilitating it all?
Yeah, I could tell you the inspiration and launch point of this started with a guy called John Tyler.
Okay.
So I judged the AIBA, the awards, Australian International
Beer Awards.
Australian International Beer Awards, which is really funny to say when you think about it.
It is, yeah. The oldest beer award in Australia.
Yeah,
I think they just knocked up 25 years or something last year or something. Quite a long time, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty big awards. It'd be one of the largest in the world. It's not quite like World Beer Cup or GABS, but it'd be up there after that. It'd be one of the largest. Very prestigious. So I judged that I've probably judged 5 or 6 times now. One year I was judging, the buyer from the LCBO came to judge as well. So they fly in a lot of people from internationally, and this one year they flew in the buyer from the LCBO to judge. And John ended up on my table a couple times. They moved the tables around, different judges, and he had on my table a couple times. We struck up a conversation. It turned out John had, previous to that, worked in supply chain at Kraft Foods. In the same building, I used to work at Kraft Foods in Canada, in Don Mills as well. And then we dug a bit deeper. We discovered we'd even been in the same meetings, and we kind of worked on the same projects. And there was a lot of overlap. We just didn't remember each other. But anyway, we struck up a bit of a friendship, and he came out here. We have a really large street festival. We get over 1,000 people out to our place and celebrate the breweries of the southeast of Melbourne. And he came out on that day. I showed him around. He had a great time, and he left me his card and followed up with an email saying, if you ever want to get into the LCBO, I can't give you any preferential treatment, but I can tell you all the steps involved. So he did, and then. This is back probably in 2018, and I sort of just put it on the back burner. I thought maybe someday I can look at doing this, and then then COVID hit, so I kind of gave up on it. Right. Forgot all about it until I came home in 2022, and my family now live in London, Ontario, and I went back to London and dusted off his phone number and gave him a call and thought, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this. It might be kind of fun. And he said, well, I've retired. so
Shoot your shot.
But he did say the good news for that is, LCBO being a government body, he particularly could not have given any preferential treatment to us while he was there. He could just tell us what's involved. But he's like, I can help you all you like now because I don't work there. So he said, I can't force the issue. I can give you a lot of direction and guidance and suggestions, which he did.
Hell yeah.
And he gave me a couple of recommended partners to look at that can help import the product. What is of importance to the LCBO, things that would stand out, why it could work, ways to present. He gave us a lot of suggestions, which is great. John's an amazing man, and I would be shocked if he doesn't listen to this show. Craig, he's right into his beers.
Okay.
So
shout out to
John. But he's actually Scottish. Anyway, we won't hold that against him. So he connected me to a couple of people, and one of them was actually Collective Arts. I spoke to them, but it was a couple of other people, and we ended up speaking to a company called Colio Wines. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
COLIO?
Yes.
I've definitely seen the name.
Yeah, so they own a lot of, I've been a bit remiss, I should have looked into this, but they own a lot of wineries in Ontario, some pretty big ones.
Take a look. Okay.
And they also own Thornbury Brewery and Cidery. So,
it used to be called King. Yeah, I know the one. I've been there. Yeah.
Same one. So yeah.
Gotcha.
So they import a lot of quite well-renowned French and Italian wines and a few other things. They're heavily into wine. That's their main game.
Okay.
And they imported last year one of the really famous IPAs from England. I can't remember what it was called.
The Goblin one?
No, it wasn't that one. It was one of the really famous old ones.
Oh, the Red Shield one or whatever, like the OG IPA.
Or something, or Fuller's.
Worthingtons.
No, it wasn't that. Anyway,
it was an old
it was a really old one.
traditional brand.
Yeah.
Okay.
John was a big fan of when they proposed to him, and so he approved it. It was one of his last goes before he left. And anyway, John connected me up. I interviewed a few different people. They were one of them, and I loved their ethos, their culture, their small family approach to things. They're quite respectful. Had long conversations with their team, and I loved them. So they helped with putting up a proposal to the LCBO, and they still do today. But we pulled together a pretty robust proposal, and they had the right inroads to John's replacement, and she received it. She heard everything that we put forward. There's hundreds of breweries that put forward their proposals every quarter. You always have to put forward, if you want to get into the LCBO, you have to be 12 months in advance for each 3-month listing. We put forward a proposal for a listing of September 2023 in September 2022 after I'd come home from overseas. And it was the double chocolate as well as our peanut butter porter, and they were unsuccessful. But they responded with advice that they were intrigued. But there's a lot of breweries around the world. There's literally 600 or 700 breweries around the world that propose every quarter. And so they just said, look, there's a pretty heavy competition, and it's tough to get in.
Right.
So they said, but keep trying. We're interested. Then I went home in December 2022 again. And Colio arranged a meeting with the LCBO, and it's very hard to get that. And we actually went and met with them in person, took them on a guided tasting of about 8 of our beers, told them a lot more about us personally. They understood the Canadian connection at that point. We mentioned to them that's our intention to move back to Canada one day, and it still is. We just had a bit of a delay right now, but so they were quite impressed by all that. They were impressed by the tasting, impressed by how serious we were about it. And so we submitted again in January for January 2024 listing. And this time they invited us to tasting. And the way that I understand their process, they do an open call every quarter, and there's 600 or 700 breweries submit to try to get into the LCBO. Of that, they pick 30 to 50 for a tasting. And then they select up to 12 to put on for a 3-month listing in their stores. They invited our double chocolate for tasting, not our peanut butter porter. And then shortly after that, we were advised that it had successfully been listed. So it was pretty cool. We're pretty excited about that. Let's have something kind of fun here. We'll talk about that later in a minute. But anyway, I'll put that to the side.
Well, we got that. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we have it. So anyway, we were informed it was successful. We didn't know how many they would order, but it was definitely in. They ended up ordering 400 cases, and they listed it into 100 stores.
Amazing.
It was meant to go on shelf from the first week of January. We shipped it and it got there a little bit early. So it went on shelf pre-Christmas, 400 cases, and as of this morning, it looks like there are only 56 cases left. So in the span of about 7 weeks, it's nearly fully sold out already, which is fantastic.
It'd be nice to sell that much in Australia that
quickly. But I was looking dog at the bone. I wanted it pretty badly. It was something that it was a dream of mine. Being Canadian but opening a brewery in Australia, I always wanted to have Bad Shepherd on the shelf in Ontario, and so we fought pretty hard, and we were lucky. We managed to get it in. So
that's so cool. I'm just pulling it up on LCBO now. I want to make sure it's still at my nearest store. It's like if you only got 55 cases left. I mean, that's so sick, man. It's, that when I went there was like I was saying. I don't remember if I said it on air or off air, but I went there like straight away. Oh, the only one nearby is in Dundas. Ooh, that means they sold out in my other store. That's the only one in Hamilton.
Oh boy! I
All
think
right.
Burlington was 1 can last time I looked.
There's a Burlington store here and at Appleby, and that usually they tell you how many cans they got. 9.
Yeah.
No. On the 61 cans in the Dundas one, in the Burlington one of them here is 9 cans left.
Okay, 9. Right.
Then in Oakville, there's like 16. Okay, so I can still get some from Dundas. Yeah,
Yeah.
I go Dundas pretty regular. Dude, that's just so sick, and it's like it's even cooler because sometimes where it was in the store that I went to, I guess you Brendo, you probably would never been to one. I imagine. Have you been to Canada?
I haven't, mate.
No. Okay. So like I guess you know all about the LCBOs, but most of them have these walk-in fridge areas now. They didn't always have that. They used to keep like IPAs on the warm-ass shelf. It was ridiculous. So now they got this walk-in, and this was it was on the bottom shelf in the like international section, which is where I went straight to because I assumed it would be there. And I think when I went, like I said, as soon as I saw the post, I was like next day right there. And there was probably 2 cases on the shelf there, but there was still some gone. So I just grabbed like 4 or 6 or something, just like, let me just get some for now, just to tide me over, and then let the people have it. But I guess my point was that it wasn't front and center, it wasn't eye level. I was in the international section, where I imagine is probably still, they had some great beers actually in that section. It's all like the Trappist stuff and things from England and all that type of shit. But for it to be in those sections and to clean up like that in the span of a month, 6 weeks, whatever, like that's crazy.
Yeah, thank you. We're really happy with it. It's just a life dream.
Yeah, it's too many to be all Derek's friends and family. He's not that popular.
I did have a few friends though that were like I'll show you one. I had a couple of friends that were like so excited, and like so I had one friend send me. So I'll show you this. This is a typical example of a couple of my friends what they were doing. I had one friend literally go and grab a whole slab.
What a champion!
Yeah, so
just picked it up.
We had a few of those. Another friend this morning even just sent me a photo that he's having it, and other friends walking out with like armfuls, and but they certainly didn't buy 400 cases worth. So it's gone well on its own right, which is great.
Okay.
And so we've now submitted for January 2025. We've submitted again, and this time we were successful in double chocolate and our peanut butter porter both progressing to the tasting stage. So
nice
to have that amongst some pretty heavy hitters out there that would all be trying to get in. That's pretty cool.
Amazing.
Hopefully, this success gives us a few runs on the board to know that it's fairly low risk to bring these products into the LCBO and know they're going to clip the ticket.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
The peanut butter porter on shelf, and they hit double chocolate, or they switch the. We don't know. We may also not be successful.
So we might have to regroup in 12 months, mate, and walk you through peanut butter.
Well,
that's right.
Mate, say less. I'm excited for that. I'm ready. Let's go. So then that's pretty sick. So once you have the tasting, I guess, and you find out not too long after that whether would the success of this being that, like, I imagine that a brewery from Australia that is, obviously there's no physical presence here, and you obviously have people who travel, and obviously you got friends and family here who know it, but typically the general public at large do not know who you are, but then still bought it. That's even more meaningful, I would imagine. I don't think, obviously we all like to roll the dice on, something new all the time if you haven't heard of it or whatever, but like if you pick up this can, you're like, oh, this, and it's obviously like one thing that we didn't really mention, how sexy the can is. Like it's got that full black top, the whole black aluminium there, and it's aluminium, not aluminum, and the
disagree.
I knew you would. That's why, but it's 2 versus 1. We're on the same. You were on the same team, Brendo, right?
Oh, hell yeah, man.
Okay, just double checking. There's an I in it.
Properly in the metric system. I'm good, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The non-metric stuff, I've forgotten kilos now because I had to learn pounds. It's ridiculous.
Let's digress for a second here. This is very true.
We could digress.
Weird mixed thing where
so
metric,
weird.
Mostly. But then you turn on an oven and it's in Fahrenheit. And people ask you your weight and you mention in pounds, right? It's this weird, and you do cups instead of mils, and so this in ounces. But then our speedometer is in
Ks.
kilometers, and our temperature is in for weather is in Celsius. And so we have this weird.
You just can't get ovens made in Canada, or it all has to come out of
Clearly,
the States?
clearly,
Yep, I guess so.
confused.
It was an adjustment. Imagine, like, I can imagine you and I probably went through the same thing, just reverse. Like,
Yeah.
it was now I don't know what the Celsius temperatures are for oven. I don't know what the minimum is on. I don't know the Fahrenheit stuff now when you turn on the oven. Like, I know you cook something's pretty hot, it's 400 degrees. I don't know what the fuck that is in Celsius anymore. I had literally no idea. And like kilos, I have no clue. I know what, but it took me ages because when I first moved here, before I got too mean to beer and now I'm fat, but went to the gym. I'm looking at
you completely forgot.
Yeah, I was like 45. Who's lifting a 45? That's insane. And I'm like, oh, it's like a 20 or whatever. Okay, trying to compare it all. And the other thing that was weird. Oh, I worked when I first moved here. I was just looking for some small work, and I worked with a friend in like construction. I didn't do that in Australia. I'm not a tradie by any standards. And they used that weird Robinson screw thing, which is like the hexagon. I was like, what the fuck is this? I thought Phillips or a flathead, and it's this weird little hexagon thing. And then they were measuring in inches, and like, that's like 16 3/8. I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about? Like
17 mil or something.
Yeah, and these weird things. I was like, I can't do this. I'd been in the country like a month. I'm like, I don't know what's happening, dude. Like, I can't understand anything you're saying. Yeah, it's a very strange place.
My wife, Dee, she likes to refer to Canada as America's hat.
Yeah, it definitely is. But at least America, you probably could give them props that they are consistent. They keep it all imperial, whereas here they're not. The good thing when you drive over the border, in my car, you just hold the little button in and it changes it to miles. But then we keep the ways in kilometers. Otherwise, they go in 1,000 feet. Turn like, what the fuck is 1,000 feet? Who knows? Yeah, I'm like, so it's like a constant stage. Basically, you're always confused. Is really what it is.
Yeah, you're just constantly converting.
You're doing the right thing, Brendo. You're the only one here not confused, mate. You're
confused about other things, mate.
It all balances, huh? But so the cans are extremely attractive. I mean, I'm not sure if it looks like it's like the metallic, on the lettering and the logo and stuff. So it really stands out, even if it isn't given prominent shelf space. Maybe because it's the first time, so they're like, or it could have been the store I went to. It happened to be placed on the bottom. That was just more feedback for you that I meant to tell you guys that's where it was.
Actually, I'm trying to fight for that position.
Absolutely right. It's also like, but at the same token, so I bet it probably grabs attention for the shininess of the damn thing, regardless of where it's placed. Then you see this weird 440ml can. If you look at like a tall boy, here we go. There's a couple of things. This is an American can.
Yeah.
So it's like that's an American 473. And then I happen to have Banks.
473. Yeah, right. Yeah, okay.
And then like another 500ml on the right here or the left, whatever. So it's so weird, all the different sizes. So I feel like that makes it interesting and a little unique as well. And then on top of that, I saw in Quebec, is it called Dollar Bill? They do like saisons and stuff. They had a saison it's called the SAQ in Quebec, same as LCBO. And like when I lived there years ago, and I remember grabbing that, being pretty stoked to get some Australian. That was the first time I'd ever seen it.
Dollar Bill in Quebec.
Right.
Yeah, it would have been either during the pandemic or just before. Yeah, and it was just like a straight up farm. I can actually tell you what it was because I don't think I've had many or any of their beers previously, so it should be easy to find. It was quite a while ago, but I imagine do you know what it was? Yo, I knew the guy. I knew the importer because in Quebec. There's a few more importers and stuff, so I could even find the dude and connect you with him if he's still doing it. There's a couple of import companies that bring it to Quebec. Yeah.
Wow.
Dollar Bill Saison. Okay, maybe it had another name. Was it Dollar Bill? Fuck. I can get back to you and confirm what it was, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. If it wasn't them, it was another brewery that is like a green bottle farmhouse.
Okay.
I reckon they definitely do one like that though.
Yeah.
Maybe they say on, like riffing on Saison Dupont or something.
I'd have thought
Yeah,
Lasserine.
it looked like that. Yeah.
Wallflower. But yeah.
No, it wasn't Wallflower. Pardon?
Wasn't Lasserine?
How do you? Is that the brewery or the?
Higher volume than Dollar Bill, but I mean anybody could.
Oh, that's who it was. Lasserine. Yes. That's who it was. I'm so sorry. That's exactly who it was.
Praline Saison, is that what
It was it was Floor Saison.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Let me see when that was. I'll tell you. I checked into that in May 2020 is when I got it.
Yeah. So Lasserine does a bit of export. Dollar Bill's so small.
Yeah.
I'd have been surprised.
That's why you're surprised. Okay. But it was so that was the first time I'd seen it, and obviously I was stoked. But I imagine, though, I was just thinking, even from just the perspective of other beer drinkers, that it's like it's, for drinkers, we're always looking for something new and different and fun, and like if we're able to get something that's like that from somewhere that you've maybe never tried before. A lot of I don't know. I would say more people in Hamilton probably haven't been to Australia, compared to say Toronto, a bigger city or whatever. So like, if they can walk into an LCBO and they're feeling adventurous, and like, oh shit, what's this? This sounds fun. Like, I think it's just like a real welcome addition to the market. Selfishly, I personally really love it, but I can see why it would be appealing to like the average beer drinker, craft beer drinker who's curious, just walks in, sees something like, oh yeah, wow, this is cool. Very reasonably priced too. From memory, it was like $4 something. Actually, I could tell you because I'm
$3.90. It should be.
I would tell you right now, you are correct, sir. $3.90. That's and for a 7.2% beer, I mean that's it's pretty damn good.
Yeah,
costs more than that here.
It'll retail here for $11 to $12. So
a single can.
Yeah, it's heavily driven by the excise component.
Yeah.
Now that said, we also accepted a lower margin to ship overseas because we wanted to introduce our product at a price that was competitive to the frame of reference in Ontario. We're aware of that. So, but we still, even if we wanted to take a lower margin here, that'd be below cost here because of excise. Excise is more than 50% of our cost base. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, I think we're the third highest excise tax country in the world.
Second or third. I think like Sweden or something, like one of those countries is higher, but we're pretty heavily taxed across the board on a world stage. Yeah.
Okay. I should know, but I would guess this would be over $4 in excise tax. Well, over $3 anyway, in excise tax alone for this one can. So
right. So it's pretty. Jesus. Okay. I did always notice in Australia that the prices were always kind of like a little hectic, and I was aware that it was driven a lot by tax. I feel like here, the LCBO, we've had this convo on the pod a lot recently, like the pricing side of things. I've been learning about it because maybe like you guys, I never even looked at prices. I'm like, if I want it, I'm going to buy it. I want that damn beer. And then there are a complete other side of the coin where they're people who are buying beer and they're really price conscious and completely understood. And those people typically would shop at an LCBO as opposed to going to a brewery directly or something like that. Because even though it's the people who are really nerdy about craft beer are going to go directly to the brewery unless it's like your neighborhood. You guys are in an area that's like there's near Southland and like there's a lot of it's a very built-up area. It's a super old area, so there's tons of people. So there's a lot of... It's probably just as easy to swing by you guys directly and pick up a bunch of beer rather than go to a bottle-o or whatever it may be out there. So it's this was actually interesting to me because I didn't look at the price when I bought. I had no idea how much this was. But I figured it would have been kind of cheaper because of just the LCBO stuff. But it's also an import. It's also... 7.2%. It's also adjuncted. So that seems to me, with all of this recent conversation I've had, like absurdly cheap. But
it's good to hear that we're competitive because that was the goal, was to ensure that people were willing to try it, and the ratings have been fantastic as well. So it's good. It's pulled through and people have enjoyed it, which is good. But we wanted to be sure that wasn't a barrier. The goal is still to grow and have a position in Ontario ongoing. So we've also submitted for permanent ranging with LCBO as well.
Nice.
Not
For
sure
this?
that's gonna go. Yeah, so we'll see. But we have submitted, so
amazing.
that might be a little ways away. We're also in draft a little bit too. So
Here?
Thornbury, so Thornbury
Oh shit.
Brewing in Thornbury. They are making. I think they made one batch of 20 kegs. Geez, I should have researched this before I came on. But look for craft beer bars in Southern Ontario. It will be on, and if it's not on now, it will be soon. So
Okay.
they did one small batch, and then next year, if we grow our distribution base with LCBO, we'll do much larger things. So so there's one batch of about 20 kegs going around to hopefully 20 different craft bars.
Hell yeah. Is there a way to find out where that goes to? Excuse me.
Yeah, I will find out. I was remiss. I should have looked into that.
No
I'll
probs.
let you know. So,
I'll add it to the show note because this will come out in a few weeks from recording, so we've got plenty of time.
Okay, great.
So we can add it to the show notes so that people can go and search. And maybe by the time it come out, it might be gone. But would that mean they're potentially going to do more batches in future if that goes well for them?
Conceivably, yeah. That's really it was a little test. They wanted to do just a 1,000-liter tank and just see how it goes. So it was just 20 kegs, and they said they, depending how it goes, then they may roll out more. They're
Okay.
not sure.
All right.
Yes, who knows? And maybe it's even on to a second batch by then.
I mean, worst case. That's exciting, guys.
Yeah.
Is there an intention, if you can speak on it then, like you said, Dereck, before you're looking potentially moving back here at some point, would that mean there'd be it'd be an international brewery, there'd be one here, one there? Is that the aim?
Probably not. I mean, I'm always open to anything. And in fact, I reviewed an opportunity with that about 2 years ago that we knocked back. So I'm always open to anything, but I think our brand would have to have clarity over what we're trying to do, a clear ethos and purpose. And I haven't given that enough thought yet.
Gotcha.
For me, it's been about passion and sharing my joy of what Bad Shepherd is in Ontario for now.
Gotcha.
But
great start.
Yeah, thank you. The personal journey side of it is to go to Canada, more about our family. So we have 2 little ones, and all of my family is back in Canada. So we want to go back there for a couple of years and have the chance to have time with Grandma and Papa and the cousins and aunts and uncles and do proper Canadian time. Have a Canadian Thanksgiving and have a true Canadian Halloween and kind of live the Canadian life a bit. Go to hockey and all that stuff. So, but lined up with that, now that we have a beachhead into the LCBO, hopefully we're also able to build the brand while we're there, and then where that goes, I'm open. But yeah, I'm also pretty happy with Colio as a partner. So maybe there's something we just partner and grow with them. They've already got the capital and the technology in place to partner and potentially just make the product themselves. So
rather than importing, huh?
Yeah,
see, that's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking as you're saying all of this, that completely makes sense. It's probably a pretty not the best of times right now, which I imagine we'll talk about as well, to be jumping into a whole brand new brewery in another country. But I was thinking of the different. You were saying, just mentioned like the differentiator or like what the brand is and stuff, and I'm like, well, over here, I'm just thinking like, whilst the industry is contracting currently, like and even if it's like a slow grind and establishing, which is basically coming back to, and I always love the idea of people shit on it here a lot, which always piss me off because that means you don't understand business. But contract brewing, I think, is a great way to test a brand, get into a market, and I just feel like that there's a bunch of like Aussie stuff to folks out here is probably maybe I don't know, Brendo's probably surprised to you, but it's like exotic and stuff. Like people used to always when I first moved here, everyone's like, "Oh man, I've always wanted to go to Australia." So like, I'm like, "Sure, it's like just like here, dude. It's whatever. It's the same shit. Just they talk funny, like, and they got Vegemite and it's wicked." But like the Aussie thing, there's like Aussie cafes here that I go to specifically to buy my Vegemite here and stuff. Like an Aussie guy owns it. I don't know where he's from, but there's like more and more of a cohesiveness between Australia and Canada. It's very like, and I just think it's interesting, and there's no representation of that in the craft beer world. There's like I said, a third wave coffee, obviously, which came from Melbourne, because that's invented, which I didn't know. I learned about it over here, and now Melbourne coffee is like the best in the world. And like that has become a thing to be an Australian style kind of cafe. I've seen them in the States too, in a bunch of places. And I imagine, though, I can just even see, even if you're contracting enough and you can do a tap takeover at a beer bar and there's 8 lines or something, and you get a bunch of meat pies in from a local, there's a great local one here in Hamilton, and that's like a pie company. We had them actually like last night or the night before, and I was very impressed with the pies. Like stuff like that, you know what I mean, to sort of like create, and it's like cultural, even though people might not see it that way. It is, Australian culture is unique, and you notice it when you're not around it, particularly for me being here and stuff. I'm like, yeah, like you do, I'm there all the time. I'm left, I'm like, cool, I don't need that. But then you find yourself like, I very much look forward to talk to you guys, because hearing the accent again and hearing what's going on back home, it's very cool to me, and you don't almost realize that you need that connection. And I feel like there's a lot of Aussies over here that would appreciate that. Plus, with the globalization of the internet, everybody here knows about like Naur and all that stuff. Like they know the jokes because it's global. And I'd like, otherwise, why would people know stuff like that? So I'm like, which is really funny, because I do know people who talk like that. Like, I can go home. I can go home. Like, it's the actual best, and nothing beats Aussie humor. Like nothing. It's still the greatest in the world. Yeah. Like nothing makes me cry than like laugh more than like Aussie stuff. So I just feel like it's because of the globalization, people are like ready for it. You know what I mean? It's not like you're coming out here completely blind and people are like, Australia, they make beer. Like it's not. When I first moved here, it was all like, oh, you Foster's and VB, and look at what, and that's all they knew, or maybe Cooper's if you're lucky. And now it's this thing here. So I guess what I'm long-winded saying, it could work.
I love this, Craig. I love this. Because we've talked before with Coolio and then ourselves about, you know, what is it? What are we trying to do? It started as a pet project and a dream, but what could it be, and how could it be meaningful to, you know, to somebody in Ontario? And I think you've just hit it. Like we're sharing the story of what Australiana is, you know, and
without being kitschy.
Yeah, just reality. Like it can be coffee, it can be Vegemite, but it can also be meat pies. It can be pavlova, maybe. It can be like it can. But
New Zealand will lay the claim on that.
Yeah, it's ours. We stole it.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
maybe try to even partner with other complementary foods or drinks. Like maybe this is also something around down the road of like whiskey and wines, and so like wines obviously I've already made there in the road, but maybe there's more, and that's an interesting way to go about actually properly launching next year. Maybe. Yeah. To me, I've given it no thought. Just it was a pet project, and now it's kind of got a life. So
got the tick, and now it's starting to run away a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like it's like things that maybe because you guys are there and maybe hadn't thought of it, but just being here and essentially like, for lack of like, just starved of Australian culture. I don't know any Australians here, really. I know some, but like my brother's in Toronto. I got some friends there, but like I'm not there that often. I'm around Canadians all the time. So everyone that I'm around regularly know all the jokes. They know they say the C word. They know all the things that are important. Some people know about footy, blah, 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 all the dumb stuff. Like, well, not dumb, but the things that I like that I happen to tell them about. But I feel like it's just bigger than that. When I first came here, I felt like I was this, like, weird little guy who was around all these Canadians, and I was like always, not center of attention, but people always found it interesting when I was telling them. They always had questions for me, and I was always, like, able to give them something that they thought was fascinating. But now it's gone, that would mean that it's like a... what's the word? It's not like hyper niche or just like a bit of a gimmick. Now I don't think it's a gimmick anymore. I really think that like globalization has gone to the point where you've seen content online from essentially someone with every accent from every country, and that goes for everywhere. We watch content creators from everywhere, like YouTubers and Instagram and whatever, from all sorts of folks. So it's not weird anymore. It's not like foreign. It's like, oh yeah, I listen to this podcast with these Aussies, and I watch these funny guys on Instagram that do it, and you know, blah blah blah. So like people have a frame of reference, and then that creates potentially a, you know, there's why is there an Aussie pie company? Why is there some dude who's opened 3 cafes, 2 in Toronto and 1 in Guelph, that sell Vegemite, and they got like 5 different smashed avo versions of stuff, and Vegemite on toast, you know, and it's great. Like, yeah, like, I mean, it might sound silly, but like, I'm like, he'll do it properly. Like,
Yeah.
and it's called Found Cafe. Shout out to them. And like, it's really well branded, really well, beautifully done. It's very cool. So like, I feel like that there's enough of a cultural thing that you could, if you have a physical presence here, and the brewery is obviously in Melbourne, and you guys have got a couple SKUs in the LCBO, then Collier or Thornbury or whatever are making some other stuff on contract with you here to spec, where you can kind of keep track of quality. You could easily, I could point you in a bit. I'll be more than happy to help in any way I can, but point you in the right direction. Yo, talk to this. I don't know him, but reach out to him, or blah, blah, blah. Here's all these folks. And then you could pretty easily connect it and then have an event where you're pairing with, like, all right, Found doesn't do beans, but maybe they could do something with them. To do some sort of Aussie event thing, and then it's catered by the pie company, and all of a sudden you got like a whole bunch of beers over here, and you have this Australia. It doesn't have to be Australia Day or something, but just some excuse to have a party and just to really introduce people that, hey, this is some real authentic beer. If our recipes are made by Brendo back home, like, this is what we're about. Like, come check it out. You can also get this from the LCBO, plus you can find it at Bar Hop and all these different places. All of a sudden it's this like ecosystem of like, hey, I can get this Aussie stuff, where before it's like I still can't get most of the snacks here. I used to get them in Quebec, funnily enough. Now there was a place literally next to my house that was a New Zealand, Australian, UK place, and they had everything, like cherry ripes, barbecue shapes, twisties, like fucking you name it, like everything. It was the best. Monte Carlos, oh my god, it was so good. I'm just thinking about it. I'm so mad. I went to Montreal in August last year, and I forgot to go. I think about it like every other day. I'm so mad.
But like, calls up, mate, I'm taking photos.
just spamming the chat. Like, eat shit, dickhead. Yeah, eating a gay time. Hot chips, hot jam donut, Vic Market, like all that, just all that stuff. Like, oh man, I wish fucking
too, right? Like that's what really sells any product, is the story, not the product itself. So if there's a story to be told that's not kitschy and is about the Australian culture, not about the kitschy part of it that everybody just knows, which is Vegemite and
Steve-O.
More.
Yeah.
So,
but I think that's a big part of where the market sort of sits. There's a lot of authenticity in it now. I think we kind of, you have some gimmicky beers and stuff, but it's not about being a gimmicky brewery necessarily or anything. No. It is that authenticity and care behind what you're doing and how you're approaching it and stuff. And I think, it's something that people, I think, really latched onto here, particularly through COVID and stuff. They were made to disconnect from everyone, and so then they found ways to connect with people or products in different ways. And those, brands and things that had a proper story to tell and stuff really started to pull through and get that connection. Then we've kind of had a little bit of a backstep now with inflation and spend. Everyone's mortgages and disposable income, coming together. There's different sort of decision making and stuff, but I think that's been a big thing the last couple of years around it, and certainly something that you can pick up and import elsewhere. Like, people like that authenticity, regardless of where it's coming from.
100%. It's cool. I'm going to take that away and think about it a bit. I think.
I want to plant some seeds.
I like it.
Yeah, like.
The eyes.
So do you guys reckon then, do you think that where the Australian beer scene is at right now across the board, do you feel like there's like kind of what you're saying, Brenda, like an authenticity in the sense of like, this is what Australian beer is about and this is where we're at, as opposed to like following a global trend or trying to catch up, which I felt like at times when I was there, that's what it felt like. Not in a bad way. It just needed to catch up to get maybe around the same sort of quality level. And now I feel like all of this, I mean, this beer is phenomenal. Everything I've had from Australia since I haven't been back since 2019, unfortunately. But, like, do you guys feel like there's like is there a thing you can say, that's what Aussie beer is, and that's what it is, and that's the essence of what you could capture and then export in a way?
I think everyone's kind of got their own take on it, and people take different approaches around it. I mean, there's
Yeah.
certainly some breweries doing really good work around like native ingredient incorporation and stuff like that, and trying to be, you know, very true to the land and that sort of thing. And they'll take a very different approach around that piece. I don't think you can kind of, you know, put something up as a poster child and say this is Australian beer. You know, everyone kind of has their little take on it, but I think it's more about the approach and, you know, how people conduct themselves and the passion that drives that kind of links that commonality around that piece and the industry and people trying to sort of, you know, forge their own path to an extent and not just do what everyone else is doing, you know, to be me too and that kind of thing around there as well. So I think, you know, that breeds a lot of variety. And I think, you know, as big as the industry has got here, and it has, it's expanded rapidly over the last 5 to 10 years. You know, I know when I got started in here, you could kind of, you know, name breweries around you off your hand really easily and stuff, and it's very hard to keep up now. But the industry hasn't really changed from the respect to, you know, everyone's really friendly and collaborative and that sort of thing around it. So. You know, I think that's a big piece of how we work here is just, you know, how open and, you know, you can walk into a brewery and say, hey, you know, I'm Brendo from such and such, you know, you get into really good conversations and stuff. Yeah. It's quite an amazing space to play.
It's kind of feel like it's more like the why as opposed to the what, maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know there's any one thing that kind of says this is Australian beer. But I think there's a why behind it. You know, there's the collaborative element, which is global in beer, which is great. But I do think it's pretty deep rooted here. You know, I was just in Queensland for a holiday, and I dropped into 10 Toes Brewery in Sunshine Coast, and you know, I walked in there and I just saw they had a sign up with all the hottest 100 beers of Australia. It was just launched. And we featured on that as well. And I saw her thing. And, so, and she saw me looking at it, came over and talked to me. And I mentioned who it was. She said, oh, we love you guys. And immediately got on chatting about our breweries and how things are going and stuff. And it's, I think, right across the country, we're all in it together and we're all one big family. And I think there's a why there somewhere that kind of represents what we are. And I think that can come through in a lot of products. I think.
Yeah, but I think it's largely like most people don't start a brewery to become, you know, financially successful. It's generally
Those
a passion.
days are gone.
But it's generally driven from passion for the product, the process, the people, that sort of thing. You know, like I left a big corporate paying job. You've done the same. Run away, join the circus. All right, like that's what you do. For the passion around that piece. And I think, you know, generally people starting from that space with good intentions and that's a big sort of underlying around it. And, you know, that fierce independence that comes around it. And, you know, particularly we see it now in the last couple of years with like the rise of white label supermarket brands and stuff like that, who some are very good at trying to masquerade and pretend that they're craft and stuff. And it's all very de-identified and stuff. It's, you know, it's more important than ever around that piece, that authenticity and stuff. But, you know, it's getting that message out there that people understand it. They know who owns the beer and stuff. It's amazing. Like, you know, you look at some of the big, like Carlton Draft and stuff like that. It's amazing the dyed-in-the-wool proportion of the population that drink that who don't understand that the Japanese own the majority of the beer in Australia now these days and stuff. They think, you know, they're loyal to this Australian brand and where you go. It's you know, as if we talk about globalization, we talk about ease of access to information, but it's amazing how ignorant people still can be around it. It's crazy.
I see what you're saying. Oh, that's great answers, boys. I love that. Do you feel like it's time for the next one?
Yeah. This blew me away that actually worked out.
You're ridiculous.
You guys would have seen my my lovely wife sneak in behind me and hand over a can, but they don't even match. They're different years.
They're different. That's even cooler.
Oh,
that's cool though.
What year, does yours have a year on it?
You gave it to me in 2019. It's packaged 2nd of the 3rd, 19. So this was just packaged when I saw you.
Yeah, right. Okay, so this is 2021.
So 2 years later.
I do have that same can, and she's grabbed the wrong one. I said to get the red and yellow one. She got the red, black, and yellow one. But that's
Do you know
all
what?
right.
I think it's kind of fun.
You'd be better at that. She looks after all the marketing
She does
stuff.
do all the design. But, well, hey, that's it's close enough.
It's now
Close
it's a vertical flight.
Yeah,
A vertical, international vertical.
You can tell us what yours tastes like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I was a little concerned because I remember this was a low fill, but they just gave me a nice hiss right here.
Hey,
Oh,
there you
that's
go.
good. Good.
So,
Yeah,
which is a great sign. So this was a 9.2% Russian Imperial Stout. This is not. It's almost like the initial like nose there was. It smelled almost like barrel aged. It's not though, right?
No.
No.
Wasn't.
Okay. Oh, this is perfect. I was so worried that this wouldn't be good. I shouldn't have left it this long. I drank everything else that you gave me pretty quickly back in 2019. And this one just got caught in the... You know how that shit goes. Sometimes you just gets caught up, and I moved. And
Yeah.
I have a nice little cellar now, and I was able to... I had it like front and center too. It's always been like right at the front. So I always had it like... I need to have that, goddammit. And I'm really glad I did it, because then we wouldn't have had it together. Look at that.
Sort of together.
Sort of. I'll take it.
We're in the not as far back past.
No, well, you're in the future.
Yeah.
Future's looking good. How's the future?
Right. 3 years old now.
Oh,
It's
tasting
good.
fantastic.
It's really good.
Oh, wow.
Look at this head. Look at this glorious thing. Look how good that's looking for 4 years old. That's
Holy
spectacular.
cow. That's actually you
got
said
a
20,
nice
it's
good
actually
clean
5 years old, isn't
Yeah,
it?
that one
You said
is.
2019.
Oh, you're right. I don't know how to do numbers. Let me just do this review.
You got the wrong one.
Oh, I didn't.
There's a red and yellow can. It's in the anyway. We're making do. We're making do.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Oh, this
that's
smells
right.
great. Well, first of all, boys, cheers.
I didn't
Cheers.
Oh, wow, that tastes great.
Mm.
That's more fun than it's. I feel like with Russian Imperial Stouts, one of their, and you guys can absolutely correct me, one of the characteristics is they're typically a little a little harsh, a little dry and licoricey and stuff. So the time, which I actually quite enjoy about them, but being that they're a tad older, it's like mellowed out. This is like this is dangerous.
Yeah, it takes time for that booze and malts and everything to integrate. Like, you've got so much beer, specialty malts and roasts and stuff. Like, fresh beer is generally the best beer. But, something like this, put it away and let it hang out for a while. And, it rewards.
There's a story behind that one too, the one you have particularly. This one we resurrected only the base beer, but so what we did was that batch in 2019 we did a full tank, and then we sectioned off parts for different purposes, and we made this family of, we use the term Russian, which I guess we can't say anymore, but it technically is the term Russian Imperial Stout. And
I see that.
Yeah, so we moved. I think we acquired 6 different barrels, and we put the stout into 6 different barrels and let them age. And then the one you have is the base that did not. And the 6 different barrels were all different, and we named them all after Russian spirits, being a Russian stout. So the base one was the Alkonost, which is like this weird chicken woman sort of thing, but there was like a Kimura and
oh, it is a chicken woman.
Yeah, so they're all like creepy spirits, and so that was the theory of it. Yeah, so and it evolved into the second one was. Let me see if I can pull back.
It's like a bird, human thing.
Yeah. So, which is apparently an Alkonost. Yeah. So, but yeah. So we did that, and then we named all the other ones. There was Kikimora and a few other ones. They were all, so one was aged, and they were put in these beautiful bottles, and one was aged on poblano chilies, another one was aged in a Merlot barrel, another one was aged in a port barrel, another one was aged in a Starward whiskey barrel, another one was aged with smoked cherries. So they all had different, and there's this family of Russian stouts inspired by all these spirits. And so we launched that all as one go, as 6 different bottles. And was a very limited batch and sold out and was gone. But we did keep some of the base cans as well, and that's what that was. And then we brought the base product back one more time in 2021. Was when we have same recipe, but 2 years apart. So yeah,
we did do it again. But then,
we did do it one more time.
Used the base, but didn't call it a Russian Imperial Stout.
No, we call it Imperial Stout. Yeah, because you can't
right. Are you saying you can't because it's like some sort of like
naughty? Well, their leader is naughty, and
that's why the leader is naughty.
It's sad. We shouldn't paint the whole Russian people. Like it drives me nuts.
Yeah, it's all. Like, it's a
fair.
Weird time, bro. No.
Yeah, like it's not fair to like cancel all of Russia because of one dickhead, right? But
yeah.
Anyway, but we can't. It just was inappropriate to use the term Russian Imperial Stout. When we brought it back the third time, we just called it Imperial Stout.
Particularly when a lot of people were releasing beers at the time in support of Ukraine, and stuff like that.
So it just wasn't a good time.
Being very on the nose.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I totally get it. It's a strange time for all of that stuff. But okay, that's a dope story. Correct me if I'm wrong here, and maybe this wasn't part of it. Some of the beers that I got back then were a part of like a where the staff got to choose a style. One of them that I had was like a dark saison at the time.
Yes.
Is this a part? Because this was just canned. I think you were oh yeah, we did this. Hey, this is a low fill. Take it. That's how quick we'd been drinking for an hour or something. So it's probably why you don't remember.
I remember that part.
Yeah, but was this one of those?
No, it wasn't. Okay. But that is something we still continue to this day. We're up to number 22.
Yeah, I think so.
So we do a brew crew, and if any permanent member of Bad Shepherd and order of time worked at Bad Shepherd gets the opportunity to make any beer they want. So
that's dope.
We're up to 22 of them now. So the most recent was a NEPA from our assistant venue manager. So yeah,
we did a doppelbock before that.
A doppelbock, yep.
Wow.
So we've been all over the place. There was a dark saison, I remember that. There's also a black NEPA that year, so it's all dark styles.
Lots of dark stuff.
Versions of lighter styles that year, but we the black NEPA was a weird one. It tasted great, but man, don't pour it in a glass.
It's always like weird one.
Mud.
Yeah,
mud.
Squid ink.
Yeah, that sounds great though. Oof.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great drawing card for the business too, because everybody gets a chance to do something
regardless
fun.
Of their role.
Yeah, just go spend the day in a brewery, making it as well, and have the joy of launching whatever you believe is a representation of you. Like we had one former assistant manager. He did it was like a rose and hibiscus sour because he was from New Zealand, but his family was originally from England. And he wanted to have flowers from the hibiscus coast of New Zealand and roses to represent England. And he loved sour beer, so we made that. And he actually went down to the this might gross you out a bit, but he went down to Port Phillip Bay and literally got big jugs of salt water and brought it back to salt the product. It was actually a goes. But we get quite creative with those.
As long as there wasn't an EPA warning that day. It's
That's right. Boiled it.
Fine. Boiled it up. It's just salt with some water. It's fine.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. The alcohol cancels it all out. He's fine.
Yeah, exactly.
That's dope. I like that whole concept. I really like that whole concept that really involving the team and bringing them in. And honestly, I'm just blown. I just didn't think this would hold up. I really thought that this would not have carbonation or anything. So I always heard that low fills can kind of and it wasn't really. It felt the same as normal. So this is this is great. It's very interesting to have a 5-year-old beer that's it's so restrained and so chill. It's nice coffee, dark fruit. The bitterness is definitely there. It's that dustiness is still there, but the licorice is toned down. I'm not the biggest licorice fan, but it really works well in this type of beer. But it's like star anise type of shit, and it's definitely subtle in the mix there.
Yeah, if you get a lot of that.
Get a good bit of molasses in ours. It's kind of sticky and
that was like a brown sugar sort of thing.
Yeah.
Molasses. That's an interesting one. Yeah, so maybe this one's probably I can kind of get it in there. It's got a lot of that dark fruit type of thing. Yeah, okay. So maybe if it's a touch younger, that maybe molasses toffee would probably be around a bit. But I mean, this is props to the canning line right here.
It was working
There you
well.
go. Yeah. Well, and there's that day the canning line shat itself. I distinctly remember March 2019. Yeah, our former head brewer Craig calling me in a panic because there was some sort of carbonation issue where we couldn't hold the pressure right as we were canning, and so we had a lot of waste. Right. We got it figured out, but it was a nightmare. I remember that. So it's good as hell.
To waste on it.
Yeah, it was not good. We lost
damn.
But yeah, well, I'm certain we have another can of it, so we'll have to try it with you when you're out here next. I'll hold on to it.
Please, because then it'll be even more fun. I'm trying to check what date it was. March the 10th, 2019 is the day I was there from the strawberry milkshake. So that was it. Good memory that you got. Remember the candy line going down. Jesus Christ.
It was pretty
memorable, unfortunately.
Some things burn themselves into your brain.
Right? Forever. This is fire. One thing I wanted to just quickly touch on. So if anyone obviously who wasn't listening for back in 2016 when Brendo was first on, or in 2020 when Dereck was first on, I wouldn't mind just getting from you guys, just like Brendo specifically, like how you, because that tripped me out, dude, to be honest, because I didn't know you were with Bad Shepherd when I was commenting on the post with the beer out here, and then when you were responding, I was like, oh fuck, are you working there? So I think I messaged you boys. I'm like, let's do this. This is so perfect. It was made my day. I was like, this is amazing. Like, it's like a pretty cool coincidence for me personally. I thought this was awesome. Do you want to just like walk us through your general, like for both of you, just to get the general history so people know in case they haven't heard the older episodes, because I imagine we have a bunch of new listeners since the last ones. Yeah, just like Brendo specifically for you, brother, like how you sort of like got into beer, I guess, and then how it went from the journey from Public Cellars up to Bad Shepherd.
Yeah, sure, man. So, Dereck and I have known each other a really long time, over a decade now. Yeah. We both came out of the same homebrew club before either of us were professionally brewing. So, it's where we know each other
before we went crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Before we went the rabbit hole completely. So I think I was in the club a bit earlier than Dereck and was having some pretty good success. And then Dereck showed up and started entering competitions as well, and we sort of duke it out. And
Nemesis.
No, not nemesis, no. But just both sort of successful in our own rights and stuff around that, and sort of fighting out for a few trophies here and there. And then I had the opportunity to run away and join the circus like this. I mean, I was suit and tie 5 days a week in corporate world, project management, sales, consulting,
right.
Lots of things. And little brewery, Public Brewery was opening up around the corner from where I lived, and I was just being nosy and sort of walk past every day, and while they're building, so what's going on in here, and got friendly with the owner, and sort of sussed out, do you know anything about brewing? No, good luck. No worries. And then they were looking for a brewer, and I came home, and my wife said, "Oh, have you seen that ad?" And I saw it. I said that advertised. I'm like, you should put your hand up, and then away we went, and sure enough, I got the gig, and sort of grew from a little brew pub over into a production brewery that I moved twice in the time I was there. So I think I was there for about 6 odd years or so. Wow. Yeah.
Where was that? Sorry, was that Public Cellars?
Yeah, Public Brewery. Yeah.
Okay.
So nearly 6 years I was there. And then just before pre-COVID, like just on the cusp of COVID kicking off, there'd been some ownership changes and stuff, and the way things were running didn't really sit that well with me. It was kind of obvious it was time for me to move on. So I went and did a almost 2-year stint at Brick Lane Brewing, which is one of the biggest independent breweries here in Australia. So I went and played on the really big toys, went from, brewing on a 15 hectolitre brew system to piloting a 4-vessel 50 hectolitre and then a 4-vessel 100 hectolitre brew house by the time I left. Went through a lot of upgrades there and stuff, and that was good. Learnt a hell of a lot about playing with big boy toys like centrifuges and filters and, really state-of-the-art gear. But shift work ground me down a bit, and as you can imagine, when you're doing those big volumes, not always the most interesting beers that you're pumping out. And Dereck and I, over the years, have danced around each other a lot. There've been a few times, like when I went to head off to Brick Lane, I think I reached out to see if there's any opportunities over here at the time, and didn't quite line up. And Dereck had called me a couple of times over the years to see if I might have been interested in coming over, but it just never quite lined up. And then he got a hold of me and said, "Hey, look, I've got this role that I'm looking to create. We want someone to focus on our new product development, come in, be creative." Away we went. Sort of the stars finally aligned, and it was funny. Like, it was right on the cusp, because it was really awkward timing just with what was happening in the market and stuff. Yeah. And I was sort of in two minds about jumping across at the time and just leaving security again.
Gotcha.
in some awkward bits, but it lined up. It worked out pretty well, and sort of came over and did that for a couple of months. And then the fellow who'd stepped into the head brewer role at the time decided that wasn't the right role for him, and so I'd come over to be creative and not manage people, and that had been the remit. And then the head brewer left, and Derek's like, do you reckon you could do
just
this
when
for
I
me?
got up, they pulled me back in.
And here we are. So not so much recently, because it's running a fairly skinny team at the moment, but for the last little while, most of my best work's been done in Excel rather than in safety boots on the floor.
Yeah.
Is that what you wanted, the Excel life, or you wanted the pilot system life?
No, I think the balance between the two is actually good, and I think one of the good things about having had to get more busy on the floor over the last sort of 6 months or so there is it's good reconnecting back into the processes and having a closer eye on some stuff. And so I think a balance between those, as we swing out of this market and hopefully go back into a growth trajectory there and start to build the team out, I think it's become pretty apparent to me that it's important to not have yourself completely divorced from that side of it.
Great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting when you first came on board and you were set loose to go and work on innovation. A lot of in innovation, Brendan was brought on board originally. The vision was to have him bring his experience and wherewithal around not just large scale brewing, but innovation in terms of capability and product development. And he came in with a lot of things around just kind of our process of our brewing and how we make product and the way we do things. And it was interesting to see. It's quite fresh to have that view for a while. And then we had to go through some changes, so it kind of pulled back. But you're right. I think the times where you're able to put yourself in amongst it is where I mean, I think we probably all have that. You put yourself in amongst it, you can add a lot of value because you're there and you're able to cast eyes onto things and see how you can add value in better ways, not just from your desk in an Excel spreadsheet. So which is important, but I think being on the tools and being in amongst it, there's a lot of value there.
Yeah, totally. I think it's good for fostering team and morale and that sort of thing there as well. Like, I mean, I've led a lot of people over the years, and one of my things has always been, especially when you're giving someone the shit job, it's like, know that I have done this job, and I'll never ask you to do something that, I won't do myself and stuff. But I think, that's all well and good to say that and stuff. But when you're actually on the floor and you're doing the shit job and people see that, I think that engenders a lot of trust and it's good for team morale and that sort of thing there as well.
I couldn't agree more. One of the things that always pissed me off I have my own business now, but obviously I work for people forever, and the best managers were the ones who were in the weeds with you or had done the job. And the worst were the ones who were just telling you what to do and had never done it and had no clue about what's going on. So if you knew that the person who was taking care of you had done it, and like you said, wouldn't ask you to do something that they had not done themselves or wouldn't do themselves, that's so I think it's really meaningful, particularly in a hands-on job. I've always done desk jobs type shit, but particularly for this type of thing, if you're in there and you're like, all right, man, you gotta the stuck mash, bro. Like, we're going to get it out. Like I'll give you a hand. You work on it together, and it kind of brings that together. You're like, man, Brendo's awesome. Like, he's taking care of me. Yeah, he's in charge, but like he gets it, and I feel like that's awesome, dude. I really like hearing that. Now I'm getting all like an old fart. Like, it's cool to hear that perspective, because it was my pet peeve in all my working life. So that's really awesome. So what have you guys been able to? Like, when did you actually join Bad Shepherd, Brendo?
February 22.
Okay, so it's been almost a year.
No, more than a year. It'd be 2 years this month.
Yeah. Why do I keep thinking 22 was last year? I'm fucking sorry.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, I had to do the thought for a second too.
It'll be 2 years at the end of this month.
Okay. What are sort of maybe the things that you two have worked on that have changed in the last 2 years? Excuse me, as far as whether it's innovation or whether it's even if it's like as simple as process or efficiency or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, that was a big part coming in. Like, we sort of went through, one of my jobs was to, look at recipes, look at processes, look at what we're doing, try and make it more efficient, drive out cost. Sort of have that new lens in. I guess having had a little bit of time in one of the bigger brewers, brought a different perspective to what I maybe had in my first 6 or 7 years of brewing, and making it up as I went along, and going from that small growth thing, you look at things a little bit differently. So that was definitely a big sort of tranche of work. And I guess one thing I've learnt, when you're home brewing and that sort of thing, you tend to, it's kind of like cooking, right? You throw lots of ingredients in, more and more equals more flavour, and complexity is good. And then, when you get into bigger breweries and stuff like that, you tend to see things are simplified a lot, and it's, it's about making it easy and repeatable and that sort of thing. So, that experience gave me a new lens, and that was something that sort of I brought in when I came back in there, is looking at recipes and pulling a few apart and, questioning the role of certain ingredients that might have been in there and that sort of thing. And, does it have a place? Does it make a difference? Are we just putting it in there because it feels good to do it, or is it actually translating into the end product? So that was a big part of that initial piece there, coming in and sort of, trying to set us up around what we were doing. And then, we looked at different projects. Like, we had some expansion projects on the on the horizon and stuff, and then we had to refocus in response to what the market was doing and that. So we've had a crack at a lot.
We have. There's been a lot of effort put into getting better and getting smarter, I'd say, is probably the way to both of those things concurrently.
Big focus on quality as well.
Quality is probably a big one.
That's a huge one. And, it's like, you're a brewer, you understand quality is important. It never becomes more important than when you have a problem.
And we went through some problems last year like that. It took us a long time to get to the bottom of it. We did. And the outcome was an incredibly strong quality program that we have here now. So both upstream and downstream. So, in terms of management and control, we've changed a number of things that I suppose other breweries our size are doing, but most probably aren't. And I'd argue that we're probably ticking every box we could at our size now. We're damn close. So just things like ATP swabbing and having a lab for positive release processes and testing and having better sensory processes. And so just a lot of things that kind of elevate our confidence over the product that's finding its way to the consumer. But then also how we're making it every step of the way and ensuring that it's actually, if there's ways that we've created risk, identifying it and managing that risk. So
it's critical control point awareness and stuff. Getting a really good handle and understanding on where the battle's won or lost and stuff. It's been really good. It's
been, I think back to, when we first started Bad Shepherd 2015, 2016, our quality control was a pH measurement, right?
Right.
pH, back when I was brewing
hydrometer, right?
Not everyone had a pH meter.
Yeah, it was crazy. And And now, like we slowly evolved from that to, doing a bit of CO2 testing and getting a density meter. And then suddenly you're doing BO testing, and you're doing proper CO2 testing, and you're adding in a lot more lab-based after the fact tests like E-cell counts and stuff. And every day you get a little bit better. But now I feel like we're running a pretty good race, and it's taken time, but I have a pretty high level of confidence over what we can pull together in our small brewery and put on the shelf because of it. So yeah, that's probably a huge win.
Yeah, and I think it's a good. It's been a good focus through that period, like where the expansion opportunities didn't come off.
Yeah,
had they come off, it would have been at the expense of those things. And now we're in a much better, stronger space where, when it's time for those opportunities to present again, we're much more capable to take it on and be successful with it.
Yeah.
Like a better foundation and sort of like tightened everything up. So then when the opportunities come, you're like, all right, we're actually better prepared. And I get it. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Can you expand on what those expansion opportunities could be? Or was it just more like just growth in the market, like distro or something like that? Or was there actual like, secondary locations or things like
Both.
that?
So the broader, kind of during COVID, we held and grew our volume based particularly on the retail side. So the packaged component, obviously with lockdowns, draft wasn't there, but our total volume continued to accelerate and grow, and our expectation was we'd continue to see that. So we invested in maximizing the capacity and capability of our technology on site in a small footprint, and which we still have, and we are doing that. But the expectation was to leverage that into a position where we're past capacity and use that available volume to have confidence in a larger production facility and roll straight into it. So that was the intention. The market retracted heavily in the past 24 months. And so we still run near capacity now. We do have some capacity now, but we were hitting points. And even then, we're pulsing it out. And Brick Lane does make some of our beer from time to time. If our tanks in a certain month or a period of turnovers of our tanks can't manage it, we do punt beers over to them to make. But it's not at full 365/7 capacity in here now. So there was a retraction. So that kind of pinched us. And then the other thing that did come up was opportunistic expansion that was specific. So the biggest one for us was do you know Moondog?
Yes, the Moondog World, that big ass place they built.
Yeah. So speaking of big ass, there's a few more big ass they've got, but they're quite a large independent brewery here, and anyway, they have now seen through the opportunity we had at hand, but we attended a signing meeting to expand to a 1,300 seat venue at Marvel Stadium in the city. We were recruited.
Yeah. What's that? What did it used to be called?
It was Etihad Stadium.
Etihad.
It was Telstra. Yeah.
Telstra Dome. That's how when it was Telstra when I left. Fuck, a long time ago.
Yeah, way back. So yeah, but so that location, I guess for the listeners in Canada, like that's just big fucking 50,000 seat stadium that does a lot of sport.
It's big
in events. So, but right on the concourse of that, there's a huge double 30-story tower going up, and at the base of that, they had a huge retail space, and they wanted to put a brew pub, and they recruited us actively, like heavily, and we got to the point of signing off on it, and there were just some pretty restrictive clauses and elements in there that that my wife Deanie and I, who co-founded Bad Shepherd together, we walked away from it and said, we have to walk from this opportunity. It's not right for us.
Gotcha.
So we did, and then in a span of about under 8 weeks, possibly 6, I don't know, it was pretty quick. Moondog had suddenly announced that they were doing the same opportunity. So I think they
took it.
They did, and they are opening there. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're also opening a really large place in Frankston, and in Footscray at Franco Cazzo's.
Because I heard he passed.
He passed. Yeah, so they're opening 3 new places all at once. So
That's
they're
bold.
really active right now. But
Is that
anyway, that
dangerous?
was a specific opportunity.
Different. Okay, interesting. That's a whole other conversation, I guess, as far as like, is that a dangerous decision in this market? 3 new, but I've never heard anything like that. That's insane.
Yeah, and 3 huge ones. They're all really big. So they clearly have some pretty deep pockets or access.
I was going to say, yeah.
No.
Where's that Moondog World? Where is that one?
Reservoir.
Reservoir, yeah. Preston.
Oh,
Yeah.
northern suburbs. Okay.
Northern suburbs, yeah.
That place is
Okay.
huge as well. So, but
Yeah.
hey, power to them. If it goes well, I wish them well. Like that's
And we very cut my commute down to like
Yeah.
5 minutes.
Oh, we also had another one
Yeah.
too.
Because
Yeah.
the old Public
God,
Brewery
it's sweet to
went
go
up.
to come up.
Talk about like full circle.
Oh,
The old
I saw
Public
this.
Brewery,
Dayton, yeah.
basically went up for sale, and we were very close to buying the production site
Yeah.
for that.
During the same time when we were cresting at the max of capacity,
Yes.
we looked at expanding there.
Very-
And,
Dude,
Yeah,
Dereck
3136.
Yeah. Well, Derek's always like giving me a hard time about how arduous his commute is.
Yeah, my 7-minute
Cheltenham. And, I live out the other side, out in the eastern suburbs, and then we went out to a meeting out the site to have a look at it, and we left at the same time. And I sent him a text message when I hit my driveway. 5 minutes, mate.
You'll never see me again if we get this.
Yeah, I said, I can't even spell Cheltenham anymore if we get this. I can't put it into ways.
It's done.
Yeah.
I'm based here.
And similarly, that one was also an opportunity that got all the way to the point. We'd even signed a letter of intent, and we had a lease in front of us, and we walked. So it was very similar. Well, in fact, actually,
we did walk. They walked.
Yeah, because we had a couple of things that we would not compromise on, so it fell over as well. But they were both very advanced
and happening at the same time in parallel.
They were
largely as
So
well.
it's probably. Would you say it worked out for the best based on the economy and the market and all that stuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that gave you. Go on, sorry, bro.
I was just it kind of. We were experiencing pretty serious retraction, and we had to run through some tough times. So, like during that period, we were also trying to manage the pressures, and our awareness of how much things were retracting kind of it made us less confident to lean in on some of the pressure points that we were receiving from both of these opportunities. They were a bridge too far. And in a probably a more aggressive bull market of craft beer, I think we probably would have accepted those risks, but they just weren't. We weren't amenable given the market and how we were performing. So.
Gotcha. Look, man, you gotta do what's best for you. I mean, I guess it sounds like it worked out pretty sweet in the end for where you guys are at, and I imagine if Moondog are doing all of these things, and that opportunity came up, there's going to be more opportunities, and yeah, right. There's always more. Someone said to me the other day that like the market, and this is about here, but I imagine this applies to everywhere, that the market has to contract in order for it to expand again, because we went through a craft beer boom across the globe that was unprecedented. No one had seen anything like it. Then all of these other global factors came in that for one of the first times arguably in history like affected the whole world basically at the same time in the same way. And therefore it's just really a matter of time before, like, obviously we're going through, and it sounds like from what you're saying that Australia is dealing with the exact same shit time that Canada's dealing with, that the States are dealing with, that I imagine Europe is dealing with, etc. So it's just more like, it's like you guys have taken that time, instead of sort of expanding, you've been able, like you were saying, tighten up processes, get everything where it needs to be, so when you do expand, you're in a much better place for that to be sustainable, profitable, and just more successful top to bottom, which is like a blessing in disguise, I guess.
It is, and you're the important thing is to have your team on board with that, though, right? Because we can understand that, but you take it a step away, and it kind of feels like there's just pressure and frustration and market retraction. Everything's quite heavy with your team. So it's communication and taking them on that journey of So we need to be seeing through it, and how we are competitive 12 months from now or 6 months from now, and why, as the market resets, we'll be in a position of strength. And and continue to communicate and reinforce that with your team. Otherwise, it can be quite heavy.
Mm.
So that's a journey that we're still taking ourselves on, and we do our best to keep on keeping that conversation going, because it's easy for us to sit here and say we know why we're doing it, but when somebody else looks and goes, that tank's sitting empty, and I know the market's retracting, and it feels heavy and scary. So it's sort of, we kind of have to have that journey together.
Right. So people are getting nervous for their jobs, I guess, is what you're saying, type of thing, or
for the jobs, for the economy, for the market, for kind of, and just kind of the joy of your employment, right? You want to enjoy it, dude. So,
of course.
So it's just important to add a little bit of purpose and vision to things. So otherwise, it gets heavy for all of us with that one. Right? So,
yeah, man. I couldn't imagine being where you guys are at. Like, we have, like I was saying, we have a business, but ours is digital. So our what's the word? Just the general expenses are nothing compared to what you guys have got. Like, millions of dollars typically in these spaces and machines, and like we can do it. We got one employee and some contractors. Like, you guys have full teams and all. It's like I very much empathize. And with what's going on, I'm speaking. I've known you guys for a long time, and like I know people here, and I'm like, these people are my friends dealing with this shit. This is fucking crazy, man. Like, this is so wild, and it's such a scary time. I don't think you're like exaggerating. It is a scary time, and you do have to bring the team members. They have to understand what's going on, I guess. And I imagine, I don't know, my experience everybody seems to know that it's touch and go for a bit, and there's gonna be some L's along the way. There's going to be some of your favorite breweries that might not make it through for whatever reason, whether the landlord puts up the rent, or tax pressure gets too much, or distro isn't paying on time, or whatever it might be. There's like sometimes like one little thing that just topples everything over, and it's
always a straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of 12, 18 months, and a lot to come.
Yeah,
in the
there's
industry.
been so many breweries that have gone through.
Talk to us about that in Australia compared to sort of, maybe you guys are familiar with here, but there's been a whole bunch. We've done episodes on it, and it's very sad to just like, it was so easy. I spent like 5-10 minutes researching, and I had a list like this long of all the ones who were closed, merging, whatever it was. I was like, Jesus Christ. This is just that was just 2023 I didn't do any further. I was like, this is insane. And mostly just locally, like Ontario. I did a little bit around Canada, but that was it. So I imagine Australia's probably suffering from the same level of hits.
Possibly more, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not close enough to Ontario market or Canadian market, but so over the past during COVID, it was. I like to look. I looked at it through two lenses. Like during COVID, it was quite cushy and safe as a general. There was a big safety blanket there. Where the government here gave the big thing they gave out was a thing called JobKeeper, where effectively they funded the wages of people, or the vast majority of their wages. So it didn't cost a lot to carry people, and there was a lot of acceptance of postponing any government obligations in terms of liability. So GST collections of employment withholding taxes, excise taxes, all those sorts of things. You didn't have to remit it. You could hold on to it, use it to fund your losses. So there was a lot of support, a lot of relief. It was the period immediately after the COVID lockdowns ended, and Melbourne was, I think, with the longest lockdowns in the world. It was something up there.
Not the longest, like the second longest. It was huge.
It was like Melbourne and Quebec, because I was in Quebec at the time, and it was fucked.
Yeah.
You guys were we always talked about how bad you guys were, but we had these crazy curfew. You guys were just like, oh, there's 2 cases, cool, close down, and you guys would just go on off. It was crazy. But then you also were in sports stadiums when we weren't allowed into a park or whatever.
Yeah, right.
So like it was both, and at first it seemed like you guys had it right, and then I was like, oh, that's kind of, and everyone back home seemed to be any mad about it. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And then looking at Quebec, we had like 8 p.m. curfews, and I live next to the mountain in Montreal, so I could see from my balcony like cop cars driving through the park, arresting people in parks or whatever the fuck they were. It was like, honestly, it was pretty ridiculous. It was pretty crazy. So I think the 2 cities were the 2 craziest places. Yeah, it was wild.
Well, yeah, because we were similar. We had
We had
curfews and the
curfews.
5 kilometer
Yeah.
limits and everything.
Yeah.
But so
You guys had the limits. Your mum told me about that. You had to
Yeah,
have. You went to the
5
doctor.
kilometers.
You had to have a note or some shit if you got pulled
Yeah,
over.
you had
Like,
6 a.m. to 8 p.m. You could be out, and you had a 5 kilometer limit, and you couldn't leave the the Melbourne city limits. There was what they call a ring of steel, so you weren't allowed to go into the retail areas, and there was police at
stop
every
it.
intersection. It's like,
Ring of
oh,
steel. Oh goodness.
yeah,
Okay.
that's
In
what
hind,
you called it.
To carry a permit because I was doing shift work,
Yeah.
so I was traveling way further than where I lived
Yeah.
and out of hours. Like,
Yeah.
so you had
So
to
it
like
was,
ring of steel. That's the first time I heard that. Sorry, that is hilarious. In hindsight, like at the time, you're like, oh yeah, cool. But now it's like, are you kidding me?
yeah. Like,
What is this fucking
So
like
it's-
Iron Man? Yeah.
Yeah, that was a period where obviously it was pretty bad, but there was a lot of safety and a lot of help, and then as we started to emerge out of it, all the vaccinations became the important thing, and kind of letting the COVID do its thing while people were vaccinated, reducing the risk, and right at that point, it was a pretty hard switch that turned off in terms of support. So all of the job people was gone, all of the relief was
okay.
gone, the remittances had to be turned off and paid immediately, and it was like boom, boom, boom. Everything happened over one, all at once, and then at the exact same time, there was this virtual lockdown where and nobody went out. So we went through a period there where nobody would come into our place. We'd have like 7 people come in on a Saturday all day long, right? So
Oh wow.
we were still carrying full wages and still brewing, and so we're going through all this stuff and nobody's walking in the door at the same time. So it was this weird period where we ran really, really heavy losses, and we had no support. So, and then we at the exact same time, they had the ATL putting their hand out going, pay me now. We gave you the relief. It's time for you to pay us now. So, and we're like going, well, we're running negative cash flow and you're asking us to pay you. In fact, we're actually going to do the opposite. We can't pay our current responsibilities. And I think every brewery went through that at the same time. And we all had this mass issue of expectation that everything would go back to normal. It didn't. And we had all these debt obligations from a period where we were supported that we had to pay at the same time. And then the industry retracted further, and everybody kind of started reverting back to the norm and buying pale ales and lagers and ready to drink alcoholic beverages and stuff. And so we lost a lot of market share. And so we hurt again there, and everybody felt this mass retraction and pain, and then the cost soared, and we couldn't really pass that on because everybody was switching back to these cheaper cost alternatives. So then our margins hurt. And so we had pressure in a million different places. And what happened was we ended up at a point where the breweries all it was no longer tenable. You couldn't carry your long-term repayment obligations. You couldn't carry your own, like it was hard to remain profitable, let alone pay debt that related to a period that was years ago. And so over the past kind of 12, 18 months, there's been, I don't know, north of 20, possibly north of 30 breweries that are even publicly we know about that have gone through either closure, a pause, a consolidation, being eaten up by somebody else, or the most common one has been a thing called voluntary administration, which doesn't exist in Canada. No. The closest thing would be the first level of bankruptcy in the U.S. So it's not quite, bankruptcy sounds quite scary. It's not bankruptcy. It's actually a pause where you get the chance to restructure your finance. And we went through that as a business at Bad Shepherd last year amongst all those breweries. So there's a lot more still to come. But what happens is you admit that you can't fulfill your debt responsibilities, and an administrator is appointed, and they come in and they decide what's right for the business. And they make one of 3 choices. They either liquidate the business, they give it back to you and say you can figure it out, or they accept a proposal that gives settlement to creditors that's better than liquidation. In our case, they did not feel it was right to give it back to us. They did feel it required restructuring. And so they reviewed what liquidation meant, and then we offered a proposal of settlement on debt that was reduced and restructured, and then so they accepted that, recommended it to creditors, it was voted on, accepted, and we've settled upon that, and we've emerged now with the business back in our hands. So that was it was a tough point, we're on the other side. It was terrifying. Yeah. Didi and I seceded complete control of the business, and a guy came in here and ran it, and he was good. He was quite professional and nice and respectful, and they did a great job of it. But it was scary.
When you say, sorry to cut you, what do you mean come in and run the business? Like literally handle everything and just make decisions and stuff? And you're just sitting there watching some guy from the government run your business?
Well, every administrator will handle it differently. So what happens is an administrator's responsibility at that point, you're declaring insolvency. So you're saying our cash flow cannot meet the debt responsibilities when they fall due. And so when you admit that, as a director, you have a responsibility to do so. If you don't, then you're trading insolvent, which is like fraud. And at that point, you can be sued as a director. So when we admit that, then an administrator is appointed. Administrators all have different approaches. We did this voluntarily. You can get to a point where you are forced into doing it, and that's things like receivership. And it gets a lot more scary. Ours was voluntary. We appointed somebody. But they have to act in the interest of the creditor, not of us. So they come in and they say, what is the best thing for creditors right now? And then so they say, we're going to take away control from you, and we're going to make sure we make the right decision in their interest. But what control means is different to every administrator because they want the best outcome. The administrators we appointed, they trusted us to continue to manage day to day, and they set some boundaries. And I can't recall what there was. Something like, hey, anything under $5,000, if it's necessary for trade, just do it and give me a report on how things are going. So he had some sort of rules like that, and he asked for day-to-day reports and he talked to me every day. But he kind of said, just keep going, keep running the business, and we'll review your numbers and we'll talk about what we can do. So and that was his approach. But other administrators can come in and go, look, I need you to leave. I don't want you around. I'm going to run this. I will decide what's right. So every administrator is a little bit different. We had ones that fit for our culture.
And it'll depend on the type of business as well. Yeah. Like some businesses are going to be easier to come in and run from the outside.
Yeah.
But, brewing is fairly niche.
You got to know the industry.
Subject matter experts that are in the business to help continue it to be successful. So
and it's pretty sudden too. If they do decide to liquidate and the creditors vote for that, it's extremely sudden. Like they close.
Can you just explain what? Excuse the maybe one-on-one questions, just maybe for me because I haven't really heard of this before, and I imagine the Canadians wouldn't, like you said, either. When you say liquidate, that means they're like, we are selling off your fermenters, we're selling your tap handles, we're selling your chairs,
fire sale,
fire sale. In an effort
to recover whatever money you can out of the business.
To pay off whoever you owe, which is probably the government mostly from their subsidies and shit.
Yes.
The people who come to run the business, do they work for the government?
No.
They're private companies. This is insane. Private companies exist, and they have people that are then appointed by whom? Like who sort of by...
It depends on where you are and what stage. For us, we did this voluntarily, so we appointed them.
So you could choose the company
that fit best for us.
But you can be forced into administration by your creditors.
And they decide for you.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. So it's like most things, if you opt in, it's generally better.
Better. So does the Australian... So people know the ATO, you've said that a few times, the Australian Tax Office, which is the CRA...
Canada.
CRA, the IRS, whatever, the tax people, they tell you, all right, you have to do this, go find a company, go choose. Is that what it is? Like, who's telling you to do this?
That is not what happened with us. Yes. So generally, whenever you have any debt outstanding to somebody, if you cannot repay it when it falls due, then there's always recourse in some sort of capacity legally, in the Western world anyway. And in Australia, for the most part, the first step is to prove that somebody is therefore insolvent. And insolvent, by definition in Australia, means you cannot make your payments for debt when they fall due.
Okay.
And for most businesses here, it's either bank debt in the form of mortgage or some sort of other loan, or responsibilities to the Australian Tax Office. In our case, that's what it was. We were current with our suppliers for trade. There's small balances, but it really wasn't a thing. It was the debts that were related to the COVID and immediate post-COVID period. And so the Australian Tax Office was pushing us very hard to make some sort of completion of settlement and payment of our debts. And they wouldn't allow us to go beyond 36 months in terms of repayment. That was their terms.
Which means that would be the monthly payments would be so high that it was still untenable for you to be able to make that.
Out of this business was less than what they wanted. It was mathematically impossible. So we first tried to go back and say, we can do it over 7 years. We can prove it. We can give you security. We'll pay somebody else externally to prove that. We tried everything, and they just said no, no, no.
Is that someone who was a dick, or is that like
that's
just how it is?
I think there's... It's
but maybe
policy.
You can't say that. But I could say it. You know what I'm saying? Like, is it somebody who was just being stubborn as opposed, you know?
I don't think it is. Maybe. But I think it has a lot more with public policy. And you would have the same thing with Revenue Canada, IRS, whatever it is. It's going to be whatever the pressure points are for the government and their policy, right? So in this case, the government has a need to, I think in Australia, get quickly away from the stench of all the COVID losses and issues. So one of the ways to do it is to accept a bit of losses from smaller businesses. And the term that our administrator is using was clear the decks. Like they're kind of looking, going, okay, we've got billions of dollars of all these legacy things. I don't care if some of them maybe could work something out, some couldn't. Get them gone. So either make them pay it or force them in administration, wipe the debt off the books, and we need to move on. We need to reset the industry and the economy.
So they had positive intent as far as like, let's keep these businesses going, as opposed to, hey, let's wipe out small businesses.
I think they have positive intent to reset the economy. I don't know that it's about a specific business. I think they're okay with my view. I gotta be careful how I say this, but I believe that they are okay with some collateral damage. I think they're okay with it because they view people will then reset and go into businesses that are profitable and don't have the legacy debt, and it lets us start moving forward again. So
interesting.
But I don't know. So
no, this is thank you for being so honest about all this, because this is fascinating to me, and like I've learned, like I think I was telling you guys off air, like our mortgage, we got fucked on that. It's like the more I learn about this stuff, the more it pisses me off, because it's not real. We're humans. Money isn't real. We made money, which means you can not make these things happen to not fuck real life people over for fake.
Versus reality.
It's a social construct. Yeah.
So,
it's like, I think it's really opened. I feel like I knew this, but like I didn't affect my life, so I didn't really pay enough attention, and then it started to affect my life. And the podcast specifically, I'm talking to so many people and getting this really wild perspective of an industry I really care about, and it just pisses me off because it's just so fake. It's just like, we had the loan out here, we were able to pay it for our business. I know other breweries that are like, we can't pay it. They had this one here, it's called a CEBA, a CEBA loan, and it was $60,000, which really isn't that much. And I'm talking, we got that, but then a brewery got that, and a brewery might cost $1 million, and we don't have many expenses. So if you even think about that, that's crazy. And if you paid the $40,000 of the 60 by January 18th this year, then you got to keep the 20. So we did that because we put the money aside. We used it to help us get through COVID at times, and then we were able to pay it off in time. Once we sort of got okay, we put the money aside, so we're able to pay it, and then got to keep the 20. Cool. Most breweries were not able to do that. So now they're at their whatever the interest rate is. I think originally it was 5%, but that was before interest rates went up. So I don't know what it is, but then they're sort of stuck paying that when like they're begging for relief, and just like, I don't know, give it some more time. It's just so crazy, and they just would rather, like you said, collateral damage. It's like, I understand that things need to keep going, but it's also not real. So like, I feel like there must be some sort of, it's an extenuating circumstance. It's pretty crazy, so it should take a pretty crazy response. Like, let's make people last.
You know what, Greg? So COVID, we never missed a payment to the government. I mean, we never missed a payment with anybody. We're never late with anybody. We're never like it,
you run a tight ship.
Should be enough to show that
couldn't agree
this
more.
is definitely and entirely driven by something out of our control. So give us just. And here's the thing, this is where it comes. What frustrates me is it does come down to government policy and in a public a public perception as opposed to a private industry, a private business that takes a bit more of a realistic view. If I come to you, Craig, and I owe you $1 million, and I go, and you have a term, you need to be paid 36 months. I go, I'm just not going to be able to do it. I can't figure it out. But I'll give it to you over 7 years, and I'll give you security over everything in here to be sure. If it goes wrong, you can still take that. You take it. You take it in a heartbeat, right? You would. But you go to a government policy-driven behemoth that has larger things at play, then they'll look at it and go, well, no. I have a broader policy that I need to see through, so I'm not going to accept that, even though I know it's the right thing for you. It's not the right thing for everything that we need to have responsibility for, right? So, and this is where private versus public they clash a bit, and we got caught in that, right? So,
gotcha. The interesting thing to me, man, is like, and I know you mentioned collateral damage, and I get it to a degree because shit's going to happen. But I know in Canada, at least we lost like 10,000 restaurants across the country, and restaurants probably got hit harder than anyone. Like breweries, and I forget the stats, and I don't know the Australian stats, but I looked at the Canadian stuff, and even the percentage of craft breweries compared to the macro breweries, like the amount that it drives for the country, or at least even the province, is like in the hundreds of, it was like nearly $1 billion, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And the amount of people, of households that are supported by the craft beer industry.
Yeah, indirectly, there's a ripple effect, right?
And indirect, I was talking just normal. Then there's indirect. Then there's hop suppliers, yeast, can suppliers, the whole shit, right?
Cars and
exactly, the food vendors, all this shit. The musicians who play right at the bars, like all of this. I'm like, you are willing to fuck all of these people over some money that we paid you anyway, that you're not fixing the roads, and healthcare is fucking horrible here. I'm like, Ontario sucks all of the dick. I really thought it was going to be great, and it's not good, bro. I'm dealing with it. Like, I've dealt with it's horrible, and I thought Quebec was bad. Ontario's so bad. I'm like, Medicare was better in Australia. Like, I'm like, this is insane to me, bro. Like, this is like, and I'm probably being too logical, and people are like, man, you're expecting too much. And I'm like, I'm being naive and whatever, and I completely understand that. It's just I didn't pay attention before, and I'm just like, I don't like things that aren't logical. And I'm like, this is not how you run a world. Don't you want to live in a world where people thrive? And the only reason people aren't thriving is because something that we created and assigned value to, such as money, is being allocated in such a way that we have people fucking sleeping in the park, and I'm sure you guys do too, and they're driven people to kill themselves, and driven to people live in cars and start fucking heroin or whatever. Like, this is like insane. This is insane. Like, it's so crazy, and it's like it comes back to that policy, these more human-made rules that they're just like, no, it's what we have to do. I know this is a fucking beer podcast and not a politics one, but it pisses me off because it's fucking with breweries, man. Like, it's fucking with an industry that we all here care about, and there's real people. You guys like employ and take care of so many people, and it's such a community hub. And I know it's alcohol and it's a sin and there should be sin tax and blah blah blah. Cool, but like, it just doesn't feel intelligent or thoughtful or coming from a place of like logic or reality. And it's
converted.
I'm preaching to the choir right here, right?
We're 100% agreeing everything you're saying.
Just nodding. Yep.
It's just it's not fair. I really like when I first saw the thing online about where I was like, my heart dropped when I first saw it because I didn't know what it meant. So thank you for explaining that in detail. And it sounds like it's a pretty decent. Even though what I just said, like, it's not like everything's ridiculous, but as far as the ridiculousness is concerned, it's a reasonable solution, and it sounds like you guys handled it very professionally and in the best way possible to be able to continue to the point where that's why it made me extra. To be honest, that's why it made me extra happy, because I think I saw that, and then I'm like, but you're in the LCBO? Let's fucking go! Like this is great. Like, this is like
wait. Yeah, right.
I don't know. I was just like, you wouldn't be bothering to do all of that if this really terrible thing was happening back home, right? So I was like, okay, this is a net positive, arguably.
It is, and we're not out of the weeds yet. We still have a lot of things to do, but I think all that stuff when we first talked about vision and purpose and the journey we're on and having everybody clear on what we're trying to achieve as a team and as an industry. We're living to that, and that's what it ladders all the way back to while we've got this financial reset. So yeah, I'm never going to be as confident as I was pre-COVID because the market just isn't that anymore. But I feel good about our intentions, and I believe we are on the right track to get there. We just have to keep communicating.
Just got to stay the course.
Yeah. That's a really good thing. Do you think that's really the answer? Like, is just stick it out and then it's gonna kind of pan out how it needs to? Whether we are, like I said, we were saying earlier, like we might lose some more along the.
You can't just stick it out. You've got to make smart decisions. You know, so we spend a hell of a lot of time looking at things like, you know, stock on hand. Live and die by it, right? So the cash flow. So while sitting here in the warehouse, all it's done is cost us money. It doesn't earn us anything until it's sold, right? So it's finding trying to keep that right balance in there. So you're not too far ahead, but you can meet your retail requirements and stuff in a timely manner, because the last thing you want to do is be out of stock on something and someone wants it. So it's that constant balance there. In a market which is a fucking fairy tale, it's almost near impossible to forecast. So you put best foot forward, best intent around it, and you'll never get it right at the best of times, particularly in this current market. And then you're trying to keep workforce engaged while you're busy, ripping things out of the schedule. Or like brewers know, if your tank's empty and you're not filling it, you're not busy. Like it's pretty telling. It's as simple as that, So if you can't just stay the course and hope for the best. You've got to be making smart decisions through there, because if you've got a warehouse full of stock and there's nowhere for it to go, cash flow is just going to run negative again. It's as simple as that. So,
gotcha. So it's have the sales folks there and like have events and encourage people to come into the tap room, and because that's what the profit is.
Everyone working as a team, right? Like, being aware of what's happening in the market, talking to your customers, looking at, your run rates and stuff, and planning accordingly, and, hoping that there's upside off the back of it.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. So I totally get it. No, but look, it sounds like there's like you guys' attitude is awesome. It sounds like you guys have got a really great working relationship, and like you're really sort of thoughtful in your approach. You're taking care of the team. You're making high quality product that's innovative and fun, and also gateway as well. Because I always felt like you guys were a great gateway brewery, like with the Vic Pale Ale and stuff like that, and just a really I went there before I met. I knew you, Brendo, but you weren't there at the time. I went in 2018. I did an interview with Will of Crafty Pint. He interviewed me, which was awesome. I was stoked about that because I only started this stuff over here, and we chose to go. We had a chat at one of the tables inside, and it was awesome. And I was like, cool, this is great. This place is awesome. My aunt and uncle told me about you guys, I believe, and he suggested. I was like, I'm going to be in Moorabbin. He's like, Bad Shepherd's in Cheltenham. I'm like, sweet, let's go around the corner. So I got to experience the tap room is a vibe. It's a cool ass place, and it's super welcoming. Got the wicked patio outside and stuff in the front and on the side there. Yeah, man, I'm really happy to hear that it's. If I'm interpreting everything correctly, it feels like there's a positive outlook for 2024 and beyond, and whether that means writing some stuff out for a bit, which sounds like kind of everybody needs to do that, and then moving into that next phase if the market continues to contract and shit happens and it is what it is, and then come out the other side. All right, let's go.
Yeah, and be ready to be nimble again, where you have to. The idea of beer as a product has evolved, and what does that mean? And that's when we first started. That's what we talked about, is that journey of coming all the way back to traditional styles and then building upon it again. And what does that mean now? So what are people drinking? How are we delivering to that expectation? And it's evolved. Like it's evolved about RTDs here now, and it's all about pale ales and lagers. Well, that's today. But 12 months from now, that might change again. So it's being prepared as we come out of it to respond well. And that's one of the learnings we had was, we probably dragged our feet in the wrong places. I think a lot of breweries did. Some did better than others. But I think we're a lot more prepared to be responsive as the market shifts, and perhaps even lead some of it if we identify the opportunities. So yeah, and I think that's the next step for us, is getting ready for that and being organized for it.
Hell yeah. That was kind of my next question, was so what's the future hold, sort of, at the very least, we're recording this in February 1st. Well, February 1st here, 2nd over there. You're in the future. You're in the future.
Hello?
Yeah. It looks pretty sick out in the future out there. Hell yeah. Let's go. Yeah. Fuck. Well, a future exists. That's all I can ask for. What's what could people, I mean, obviously there's all of that stuff, which is great, and thank you for identifying that. And it looks like, you guys got a really thoughtful approach to what's next. From maybe the consumer side, is there anything that people can expect? Obviously we're looking at January 2025 for potentially a double drop in the LCBO. Then we're going to do another pod next year with the L Peanut Butter Porter as well as the double Choc. What's popping for 2024? Is there anything sort of fun and exciting? Obviously, people in out here don't always think about it, but you guys are balls deep in summer out there. Best time of year right now. I heard you had a rough summer though. I heard it's been hella rainy.
Yeah, it was supposed to be this blistering hot summer, but it has been one of the wettest. It's just been insane.
I think it's like highs of 20 pretty much every day next week.
Oh god!
This weekend looks good.
It's really hot Sunday. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been all over the shop, even for Melbourne. It's been all over the shop.
Yeah, Melbourne is psycho. People don't get it. Melbourne is psycho. The weather is insane. It's nothing like it. Even the winters.
If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Just wait 5, you'll be fine.
Maybe 7 at most.
There are things where it's 41 degrees, and then in the span of 15 minutes, it's 20.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. I give that example all the time. You're at the beach. It's it's 40, then it rains, and then it's 22. You're like, oh, fuck. Guess we're going to leave.
Yeah, that's right. It just goes boom, changes.
And you forget how crazy it is, because everyone, the weather's not exactly normal here, but it's not that. It's really not. Melbourne is wild.
Whole change I didn't know until Melbourne.
Yeah.
Now I get it. So,
it's very unique. And I must always give Melbourne winter props. Melbourne winter sucks so hard. When we came in 2016, when we saw you, Brendo, I couldn't believe how much it sucked. And we talk about it here because we used to make fun of it. It's minus 40 in Montreal. What am I going to do? Oh, no, it's 5 degrees and raining. No, it's miserable, bro. It's horrible. It's horrible. It sucks. Don't get it twisted. It's not nice. It's like London. It's terrible.
It's a nothing temperature.
Yeah, it's just, anyway, it sucks right now. But I must say, Ontario is so much better than Quebec. Quebec is a nightmare. Here is soft in comparison. It's been pretty miserable too, but in comparison, bro, barely snowed. It's beautiful. I'm here for it. What's popping with you guys? What's happening for the rest of the summer? Is there anything coming up for winter that just people could look forward to back home?
To festival season. We've got a few big festivals coming up. So St Kilda Beer Fest down on the foreshore there. And
nice.
Gardens, that's always a good day, and then a big local festival coming up the weekend after Morty Fest, which is just a massive 2-day party down there. So music, beer, should be a good bit of fun. Working on a couple of new products that we can't talk about just yet.
Pretty cool though.
But just trying to sort of branch out in terms of what we're doing in response to some of those market trends that we're seeing and stuff. And just keep putting out the beers. We've just dropped the Mango Splice, and that seems to be going well. Just keep moving on, and I guess get ready for Gabs in May. Great Australian Beer Spectacular. It's always a bit of fun.
We do. We have more. There's a big festival here called Good Beer Week, which got
it changed this year, right? Yeah.
It got canceled.
It's on a pause.
Yeah. So and we always had pretty much the premier event on the last Saturday or the first Saturday, the opposite of Gavs, whichever one where it would fall. But we do a street festival here called Southeast Beer, where we'd invite breweries from right around the southeast. And the street festival, we'd have over 1,000 people up and down our street. And fantastic event. But because that got paused, we put that on pause. But we're talking about maybe bring that back later this year. If we do, that'll be big. That's our premier event that we do every year. So
maybe do it in a month that's not May.
yeah, we're thinking November.
We've done so well every year, but you've got to run out of luck. Like you're right on
when
the cusp of
it's just
winter.
gonna roar with the rain. Yeah, so
That's a good point.
Yeah, so a few things. Like Brenda said, there's products. A couple products. We can't really show them yet because they're pretty early, but kind of cool and fun. But we'll also be bringing back some old favorites. So we're figuring out what we do with Double Choc. Might give that a pause for this year. Might not. We're so up and down.
So brewed a lot of it last year between the Easter release and then then LCBO. And we did a Double Choc variant for Gabs as well, like a rum infused one. I did like 3 different versions of Double Choc last year. I'm chocked out.
Needs a rest.
So and I think it's still more about probably continuing to get things right for ourselves and having a lot of joy with our patrons in the Southeast. So supporting a lot of local causes and that sort of thing in your effort. So
Hell yeah. That's awesome, boys. This has been great, man. Thank you both for hanging out, taking the time in the middle of the afternoon and drinking, basically 10% beers. So I appreciate that. I know it's a Friday though, so it's a little easier.
It's okay.
That's not too bad. But look, these beers are so great, man. I'm so grateful that I'm able to get this here. Like I really, truly, it means a lot to me personally, just because it's like I really always, even though I discovered craft beer properly over here, like it's where I'm from, and I want to make sure I represent for that as much as possible. So to me, being able to get this here and from you guys is even cooler. This beer held up so well. I just crush that like it's nothing. I'm probably gonna be feeling this soon. It's really cool, man. Congrats on everything, even through the rough times. You guys, it just got really. I love your attitudes, man. Super positive, and the way you're approaching everything is just really thoughtful and logical. And man, it's awesome. It seems like there's a lot of exciting stuff coming up, whether it's this year and some more stuff for the Canadians listening and watching. Like go grab the rest of this beer before it taps out. It won't be too long, and then hopefully next year, which is perfect. This beer, obviously, it's it's shitty and cold here now, so these type of beers are money. You guys are probably drinking it in reasonable weather, and it's brick here, so it's perfect. But yeah, boys, this is awesome. This is really cool. Very cool as well to catch up with both of you together. It's wicked, very, very cool. I appreciate you both, man. Thank you.
Man, awesome. Thanks for having us on. It's good to reconnect, man. It's been too long.
And that certainly has. Yeah, we'll have to get you out here and do a bit of a virtual tasting of a few of these.
Yes, I would love to.
What are you going to What's the
for coming back?
Yeah.
So this is the one thing, right? Basically, COVID fucked my whole life up. Well, it fucked everybody's life. I was coming back around the same time, around February, March every year. That was my plan. I was going to do it every year, and I was stoked to finally get in this rhythm. And I had a thing going. Then COVID happened. And then when we moved here, we got a dog, and we have never left him alone, and we take him everywhere. Like, we drove to, Key West. We stayed in Florida for a month, and we drive him everywhere. Now, unfortunately, Australia has biosecurity laws, and they make a dog go in the quarantine thing, which is fucking...
up to a month, can't you?
It's 10 days, but, I'm not... he will... No, he's not... I'm not doing that to him. So, what we were thinking... We're trying to do a thing where we're building up the business. So trying to travel to be able to figure out how to travel with him. And the idea right now it's up in the air. Was me and my girlfriend go to either Hawaii or Bali or something that would let him in. I know Hawaii definitely does. I don't know about Bali. And then I would come down to Australia when she stays with the dog. And then just because not because he can't leave him. Worst case, he loves his grandma, and my girlfriend's cousin who works for us lives in Toronto, and he's great with dogs, so we could do that, but we just want to take him around because it's wicked. And I want him to meet he hasn't met my mom. Mom hasn't traveled or anything like that, and he meet his grandma. But that was what we're thinking. I really want to go back because the more, honestly, I had Banks on the other week, and now I'm talking to you guys. I'm like, it's kind of I was telling my girlfriend, literally last night, I was like, I like to just pretend I don't want to go because it's easier. I'd be like, yeah, I didn't care about going back. I'm good because then I don't really think about it, and I got to get those emotions and push them right down. But the more I talk to you guys, I want to, when I'm there, I just...
Tug on those heartstrings.
Stop! You're killing me, bro, yeah. And I see the gay time egg. We just have a box of gay times, and we're going to make a gay time stout, yeah. But
You make a gay time cheesecake or something.
Ooh.
sort that out.
Like a nice little pastry sour, like a nice little 12%, a little, maybe throw a little rum barrel or some shit. Okay. But yeah, no, I really want to come back. I think about it all the time. I'm like, I really, really do. So as the second I figure it out, like I'll be hollering at you guys. I'm also like averse to playing for like 16 hours. Like, kill yourself. Fuck that. It just seems like they lose. Yeah. I know. Once you're up there, you just deal with it. But I haven't been on a plane since I think 2019. So I'm I don't know. I forgot. I'm sure it'll be fine. But I am thinking about it regularly. So as soon as we figure it out, like I'm gonna holler at you guys. Like I'm excited to get back. It's like once you're there and soak it up. When I left, I felt like you're there your whole life and you're like whatever. And then every time I come back, you're like, Melbourne is one of the coolest cities in the world. Now it's the biggest in Australia, so fuck you, Sydney. We are the biggest. What do you got? A stupid bridge and a little fucking pointy house? We got culture. We got food and beer and music and art and mullets. The mullets. There's a few dudes here. I'm seeing mullets around here, and I feel like you guys are. My cousin always shows me. He's got 2 kids. They're like 18, whatever. Like they're both boys and they got mullets. I'm like, when he first showed me, like, what are they doing? And then he showed me the guy who plays for Footscray, Bailey Smith or something. And he was like, all the girls love this guy. I'm like, what is this? Warwick Capper in like '88? Like, how is that a thing? And it's been very funny with like learning that like, oh, like these. Oh, you don't know what.
All this new again.
Yeah.
See, when you get to be old guys like us, you've seen it before, and
it comes back.
I remember that shit.
Yeah. So we're gonna get. It wasn't good then. It absolutely was not. But we all need mullets, so I think that's gonna have to be the prerequisite. At the very least, just grab the back out there, boys. You know. Yeah. Yeah, man, I'm super excited. Let's take a quick screenshot holding up the beers real quick, and then we'll finish up. I'll wrap this up, and we'll finish up off air so we can say bye. Let me screen this here. Hold these gorgeous cans. You got the cans there? Hold them up. There we go. Beautiful. Yep. There you go. There you go. Ready? Champions. Boys, where can all the good people find Bad Shepherd online? What's the website, the social?
LCBO.com.
Yeah, LCBO.com. Search for Bad Shepherd, Double Choc Hazelnut Brown. I love that.
You go badshepard.com.au in Australia. So yeah, it's and
is it Bad Shepherd beer on Instagram? I'll tell you.
The wife
Boys, come on. Yeah, no, I understand.
Bad Shepherd Brewing on Facebook.
It's Bad Shepherd Brewing Co. on Instagram.
Yeah.
There you go.
There's that. Yeah, and on Facebook as well, and yeah, we're in all the national retailers here in Australia, plus all the independents, and our brew pubs open every day. So
love it.
7 days a week. You can barbecue. 17 beers on tap. Come hungry because you'll leave full.
I love that. That's a tagline right there. Boys, this is awesome. Once again, I'll wrap this up. Stick around. We'll finish up offline. But thank you again for your time, guys. This is it means a lot to me to do this. So thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Everyone watching and listening, I really hope you enjoyed this one. If you did, mate, smash that thumbs up. Hit subscribe below. Hit that notification bell so you know when the new drops. Follow us everywhere at BAOS Podcast. And check out the long form audio so you can hear attractive Australian gentlemen like Uncle Brendo and Uncle Dereck talk about craft beer. And we'll see you legends in the next one.